Gee, Steve, what are we going to do tonight?
Same thing we do every podcast. Tell him how he sees it.
What's wrong?
Wrong? Nothing's wrong. Not according to you, anyway.
But if you've got something to say, don't be shy. Spit it out.
All right, I'll spit it out. But don't expect me to be grateful just because now there's another damn thing we've got to find.
I thought you knew what you signed up for.
Yeah, I thought I did too.
Well, I'm sorry, but I don't quite understand. What part of this isn't living up to your expectations? Did you think we were going to be staying in a five-star hotel, finding a Horcrux every other day? You thought you'd be back with your mum by Christmas?
I just thought, after all this time, we would have actually achieved something. I thought you knew what you were doing. I thought Dumbledore would have told you something worthwhile. I thought you had a plan.
I told you everything Dumbledore told me. And in case you haven't noticed, we have found a Horcrux already.
Yeah, and we're about as close to getting rid of it as we are to finding the rest of them, aren't we?
Ron, please take the Horcrux. You wouldn't be saying any of this if you hadn't been wearing it all day.
Do you know why I listen to that radio every night, dear? To make sure I don't hear Ginny's name. Or Fred. Or George. Or Mum.
What, you think I'm not listening too? You think I don't know how this feels?
No, you don't know how it feels! Your parents are dead! You have no family!
Stop! Stop!
Finally, go! Go then!
All right, here we go. It's How We Sees It, episode 283. This week we're back. We're trying to finish up this Harry Potter series that we've been going on for the last couple of months here. We started with the first one, and now we are at the seventh movie. Thing is, it's 7 books. You would think 7 movies, but no, they throw a whammy on us and do a part 1, part 2. I think they were the first. Were they the first to do this with the part 1, part 2 on big books?
I seem to think so, because who followed it? It was the
Twilight did it.
Was Twilight
actually,
and
Hunger Games. Hunger Games. That's what I was
Games,
trying to think of. Yeah,
Twilight,
Yeah.
and then we kind of got, it wasn't a book, but the Avengers, Infinity War, and then Endgame kind of did a part.
And they-
part
and
one,
they-
part 2.
yeah, for a
And
finale.
they split The Hobbit into 3 parts. For
That
some
was just
reason.
that
I thought
was
that-
just stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
But I thought the Hunger Games was before this, wasn't it?
No, I believe it was after. I believe the last movie was after. I think it was.
Well, this was 2010. So
I'll check it
let's
out.
see what Hunger
Right?
Games was.
Yeah, because Hunger Games was after Claire was born. So,
It has to be because the original one was 2012.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go.
So
yeah, I was going to say, because
This
we
was
didn't get
way
it.
that long ago.
yeah, it was 4 years after this that they did the Mockingjay part 1, then part 2. So we got that set.
I can think of one.
Go ahead.
The
Hit us
Godfather.
with that knowledge.
The Godfather.
Godfather.
Is that a part 1, part 2?
Yeah,
I thought that
there's
was
a
just
part
3
1, part
separate
2.
movies.
No,
but
there's
they-
Yeah,
part 1 and part 2 off of the first book.
Are they from the first book?
I'm going to double check, but that's my recollection.
Never read the book. Sharon would know.
I was gonna say I didn't even know it was from a book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we talked
Another
about
movie
it. 'Cause
that-
Mario Puzo wrote some movie we reviewed.
No.
That's
I mean, we've only
right.
done 283 of these episodes. You can't remember every single thing. Right, especially with the way we are with this, because one of the things we love to do on How We Sees It is we pair our movies with cocktails or drinks, and no different this time. We got 4 beautiful cocktails coming to you right now, starting with Bo.
Oh, okay. So I started with my first one. My cocktail, not my first one, my only one. My cocktail is called Stolen Locket. And I call it the Stolen Locket because it's a combination of, I got inspiration from a couple of drinks, because I honestly cannot get past, I can't get past the fact that it steals from so many great movies that I've seen in the past. Steals from Star Wars,
Lord of the
this
Rings.
specifically, I Will Die and Make You Stronger, here is my sword, all that kind of stuff. And then
Chosen One.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, the Chosen One. Then there's the Lord of the Rings, my precious. Like, I can't operate with this locket around my neck. I can't do anything right.
And
so
also Galadriel giving all the gifts at the with Dumbledore bequeaths things.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep,
I didn't
all
even
that
think
kind
of
of
that.
stuff.
Good one, Steve.
So much stolen from those two movies.
Stolen or
this is-
paying tribute?
No, stolen. Come on. The locket could not have been more like my precious. I mean, it was like, I'm not giving it up, and they didn't want to give it up, but then they did give it up, and
so now that's interesting.
Didn't wear it
because
too
the
long because
movie-
it's making
the
me
movie
evil.
is way more into that than the book was. It did have notes of it, but the movie played way harder into the Lord of the Rings precious. So I get what you're saying.
Well, since we're reviewing the movies, that's what I based it off of.
Touche. Okay.
Anyway, so like I said, it's kind of combined two different drinks. The inspirations I got my drinks from were the Gold Ring and Stolen Gold. So I'm not going to break down which was which, but this has 1.5 ounces of Reposado tequila, 1.5 ounces of corn whiskey, specifically not like grain whiskey, like bourbon or something like that. Right. So it's a little sweeter that way. 1.5 ounces of each of those, if I didn't say it. 1/4 ounce of lemon juice, fresh squeezed. 1/4 ounce of turmeric honey, which the turmeric honey I made, I actually mixed in a little ginger because the recipes I found had turmeric and ginger in them. I think it kind of cuts back on the turmeric flavor a little bit, which can be, I think, a little just overbearing on the cocktail. So yeah, I did that. 4 dashes of Peychaud. Is that how you say it? Peychaud bitters.
I say Peychauds, but I could be wrong.
Peychaud. Yeah, that works.
I usually say it wrong and then you correct me, so I don't know.
I always say Peychaud. I'll ask Kelly. She's a French minor, so I'll run it by her next time. And then shaken and just served over ice, like in a how we sees a glass is what I kind of call them now. And then for my beer, I really one of my kind of favorite parts of this. One of my favorite parts of this was kind of the breakaway to the animated part with the three brothers. Yeah. So I went with my beer was the Three Philosophers Quadruple Ale. So nice. Three Philosophers. The story was. I did a little research. It qualifies as a philosophy. The cartoon, the breakout cartoon, according to a couple internet sources. So I went with the Three Philosophers, even though it's three brothers. And I went with it.
Well, they might have been philosophers also. You know, I mean,
they could have been. They just might not have mentioned it, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Or maybe they were sorcerers, not philosophers, because we don't want to get caught up in that controversy. We're American here. We go sorcerers.
Probably true. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's probably a good point. Anyway, all in all, yeah. So those are my drinks. Those are my drinks I went with.
Nice. I like it. All right, Nina, you're up. What do you got for us?
Well, I kind of worked the other way on this one. It was my husband's birthday this past Saturday, and it was one of the big milestone birthdays. So my daughter and I got him a really kind of primo gift. It went a little more than we normally would have, and got him a slushy machine.
Wow.
And which sounds ridiculous, except every time he goes to
an icy, a slush pup, or a Slurpee, or none of the above.
It's called a slushy machine.
Okay, perfect.
It's not like industrial size. It's like for home use.
Sure,
it's like it makes up to 64 ounces.
Where did you put it?
It's sitting on the counter. You can't move it around because it has Freon in it. So it's there. It's there at least for the summer.
You just add the water and it freezes it.
Yeah.
Rather than adding ice and chunking it up. Nice.
Oh yeah, this is like we got like the top of the line. Like
it's
I say,
legit slushy.
Yeah, every time he goes to Wawa, he gets a Coke Icy or a Coke Slurpee or whatever. So we're like, this will pay for itself in a year, And so,
Well, that brings up the big question. I don't want to interrupt your drink too much, but
Sure.
preference is slushy or Slurpee. Right, slushy is the one with the bear, and you usually get it at the theater.
No, that's an icy.
Oh,
The slush
icy.
pup. The slush pup is the one with the puppy on it, the dog with the long ears. We were just talking about this at work. So ironically, we were, no kidding, just talking about this at work because we have a
slushies
Taco Bell
are from
cantina across the
7-Eleven,
street.
right?
Slurpees are from 7-Eleven.
Slurpees.
here's the thing.
Ices are
Slurpee
for
and-
movie theaters.
Yeah.
Slurpee and Icy are the same company. It's just Slurpee is
It's way more
proprietary to 7-Eleven.
Oh,
And
but they're a
icy
different.
is-
They're a different texture. The icy and the Slurpee.
Supposedly not. They're they're the same company.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
but anyway,
Now I want a Slurpee. Damn it. Go ahead.
yeah, I
ahead.
kind of like Slurpees myself. But anyway, so I'm like, it has to be something frozen because I want to use the slushy machine. And it's like, well, I will pay tribute to one of the fallen warriors in this movie, the snowy owl Hedwig, Harry's beloved pet owl. And so I have an R.I.P. Hedwig, which is lemon lime slushy because it's white, and I put vanilla, an ounce of vanilla vodka and an ounce and a half of blue curacao, just to give it a little like a light blue color. So it actually made it pretty blue. So I might go with like just triple sec next time. But it is I didn't wait because I didn't want it to melt. It is extremely tasty. I may be drinking these all summer. So
I can see that. Yeah. No, that's a.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, that's just a margarita with different ingredient kind of thing.
yeah, that's kind of what I had in my mind. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
always love the blended frozen margaritas. It's just in the variety of flavors. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Speaking of the Slurpees, have you guys ever gone to a 7-Eleven on July 11th where they basically you can get a Slurpee in any container you want for I think it's 49 cents or something crazy like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's 2 days after my birthday. I always go.
I have a gallon size pitcher, iced tea pitcher. So that's what we take.
I went in with
They say as long as they say as long as you can get it under the spigot, you can fill it. So you can't have a hose or anything like that.
I've never done
You have to be able to get the container. You can't add a spout. You can't do anything like that.
Well,
but if you can get the container under it,
anything over a gallon, and you're just asking to hurt yourself in more ways than one. But yeah, it's
true. The brain freeze is next level.
But it's always a fun thing to
think
talk
about the sugar.
Yeah, to think about how much of this you can get.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save Steve for last, just because I love listening to his cocktails while I sip on mine.
Nice.
Now, I was kind of perplexed with this one. I went a bunch of different ways. I also was looking at the fallen heroes because there's a couple of them in this one. Hedwig being the first. Good way to get her out of the story because that would be hard to travel with an owl always giving away your position. Sad way to have her go, but I think they gave her a better death here than they did in the book. So it kind of gave her that fallen hero first tier of the movie kind of thing. This is definitely one of those ones that's going to pull on your heartstrings. So I was going to go with a fallen hero. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what I haven't done that I really wanted to do in this, and I don't want to save it for the last one because I think I'm going to have to come up with something epic for that, is I hadn't done a butterbeer. And so I started to think, and I was like, I got to do a butterbeer. So I went with what I call the ultimate butterbeer. And I wanted to make sure it was strong because this is like I said, it's a teary movie in ways, and it's also kind of boring in time. So you got to have a little something going for you. And I went with 2 ounces of the 99 butterscotch. So this is a 99 proof butterscotch schnapps. Super delicious, but it comes with a kick. I couldn't find my vanilla vodka, which I was going to go with, but I did have a caramel vodka, so I used that instead, just to up that caramel butterscotch kind of flavor. With
Sweet
2 ounces
factor
of
maybe too, right?
Oh God, yeah. 2 ounces of the vodka. Then I was like, I was kind of like, what would be really cool? And I was like, let's kind of make this like a sour and foam it up. And I was like, oh, what even better? I went and found. I was trying to find butterscotch. What's that, pudding, but we didn't have any, but we did have vanilla. So I was like, okay, I'm going to throw in 2 spoonfuls of vanilla pudding powder.
Ooh.
So
Just the powder?
Just the powder. Shook that up in the shaker with ice, poured it in the glass over some ice, and then topped it with the cream soda. So this is
did you post it? I haven't looked yet. Have you posted?
Yeah, I sent that one out. It should be out there. But yeah, so it is very buttery, very sweet, but it's got a little kick to it. I think that 99 really comes through. I think if I'd have went with a regular butter shots, which is only like a 15 proof, I don't think it would have carried as well. But this is definitely a good, fun, Harry Potter drink.
And you stole my drink for next week.
You were going to do the ultimate butter beer, huh?
Well, I was going to do a butter beer. I don't want to. Whatever it is, it'll pale in comparison. So I'm got to come up with next week, 2-3 weeks from now. But you get it.
I was trying to find something. The pudding came from a thought of wanting. When I think butter beer, I think of a smooth drink, something with a good smooth mouthfeel. And I was trying to figure out what to do with that. And the pudding just jumped in my brain. I'm like, oh, that would be a cool way to do it, kind of like a sour where you put in the egg white or the foam. And I thought that would be kind of nice. And so it did come out really good. Very on the sweet side. So if you're not into sweet, dessert style drinks, this would not be for you. For me, I happen to love butterscotch and sweet things. So it's all about it for me.
Nice.
Cool.
Yep. All right, Steve.
So I was leaning into the style of this movie being very different than all the other ones. The other ones are all very epic movies. They're all about the adventure. I mean, this one had a different thing going for it in that it didn't have to kind of have the ultimate climax. It was kind of a moment in the space of these 3 individuals' lives, and I kind of liked it for that. Movie. It's not well. Yeah, but it gave it a different tone that you don't go in with these high expectations like you're going to get this epic finale, and you can almost, if you want to, lean into the characters. And I like that. I like that there is a movie in this series that represents that. It's hard to place it in favorites when it's such a different type of movie. But I leaned into that a little bit. To me, this is this is Harry, Ron, and Hermione go on a camping trip. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like. Stand by Me. They're doing something like that.
That's a good comparison.
So with the camping in mind, I thought, well, what do you do on a camping trip? You have a fire and you make s'mores. That's what, when I go out with Noah and his family, that's what we do. We make s'mores. So I leaned into the s'more cocktail, but I didn't want it to be overly sweet. I kind of wanted to give it a little bit more symbolism. So here's what I came up with. I started with, and I'm going to give you these numbers, but I actually made it double because I wanted more. but as far as the ratios that I came up with for my cocktail, it's 1.5 ounces of an overproof bourbon, 1/2 ounce of creme de cacao, so you got your chocolate in there. I made a marshmallow simple syrup, a toasted marshmallow simple syrup. I basically torched I didn't burn them, but I cooked them over my simple syrup that I was making, and I let them melt into it. And so it's got about, I think it was a half cup of sugar, half cup of water, and then I got that all mixed up, and then I took 4 really big marshmallows and cooked them over the flame and let them melt into it and mix that all together. So it made a marshmallow syrup, toasted marshmallow syrup. I wanted some Amaro. I went with a Highland Amaro, which is something that I don't use very often. It's a little bit more bolder. It's got a little mintier flavor too. So I was a little subtle on it. I just use a 1/4 bar spoon. I looked up some recommendations. This is a Fernet Leopold Highland Amaro, and they were saying don't go too strong on it or overwhelm your cocktail. And so I kept it very minimal, but it kind of leans into the camping theme with the Highland. I liked that idea. 2 dashes of orange bitters, and then I started actually with a peaty Scotch rinse in the glass. So I gave it a little smoky feel to it, just because of the peatiness that was leaning in against the campfire. Then I got a little caught up in the garnish because I wanted to garnish this. At first, I thought I wanted to make the Deathly Hallows symbol, and at first I thought about kind of doing the typical s'more. You know, I could do a graham cracker triangle and a marshmallow circle and maybe a long stick of chocolate. But I wanted to get a little bit more into the symbolism, and I went a little bit down the rabbit hole and trying to figure out what different types of garnish might represent these Deathly Hallows. And I was trying to assign Ron and Hermione and Harry to each one. And I found different ideas on how they could all be interrelated. But then I could also throw that out the window and then come up with a whole different idea. We'll probably get into more about what they represent in the podcast later. But that, I don't want to get too far into that. Here's what I ended up with. I ended up with a cinnamon stick for my wand, a triangular apple for the invisibility cloak, and the orange twist in a circle. And if you look at the picture of my cocktail, I kind of represented them so they look like the Deathly Hallows symbol.
Yeah.
So and I went I leaned into a little bit of wordplay with the title. I called this my S'more Crux. So that's it. It's my S'more Crux, and I have a double to get to enjoy.
That's why you go last, Steve, because you always bring the thunder. Nobody wants to follow that shit.
That's
good.
Awesome. Oh, it's good. I'm glad I didn't go too strong on that Amaro, because just the little I put in, I really get that mintiness and. Oh, but it's nice.
Sometimes
nice.
I like a good mint with the chocolate kind of. That to me, that's a flavor.
Sure,
I really like.
Sure. Oh, like the marshmallow. Oh, this is nice, but it's not overly sweet. So I'm pleased with this.
Not like the s'more White Russian that I did. That every time I show that to someone, people usually go, "Holy diabetes!" It's like, whew, it just looks like a sweet tooth happening. But now that sounds really good. I love what you did with that, Steve. That's awesome. I love that you brought all the different symbolisms into it too, from the camping to the Horcrux name and the whole Hallows themselves. So good job.
Thank you.
And it sounds delicious. So
it's delicious. And I put it in a brandy snifter. Go ahead.
I was going to say, someone out there needs to make it and let us know what they think. So I had a lot of different potential ones too. One of the ones I really wanted to find a way to do was use the Babbity Rabbity. For some reason I was
Bard,
like,
right?
Yeah, from the Beetle of the Bard. Babbity Rabbity. I just was like, that would be such a fun one to do. But I ended up going with
it. Was also the way that Ron delivered the line too.
Yes.
It was almost like he was leaning into his old, 4-year-old child.
Come on, Babbity Rabbity. No. Yeah, no. Ron throughout the series has always had he's kind of the common guy, and or the fun friend, he's got the facial expressions and the one-liners that, enough to keep someone around.
Yeah, he's the everyman, but he's definitely, I like what you say, did you say the common man? Is that? Yeah.
He's kind of like anybody could be him, because he's not the chosen one. He's not, he's kind of what, I don't know, me as a person growing up, wanted to be like the good friend to someone, the one that always has their back, and no matter what's going on, he's that guy. And it's just, it's kind of just a fun thing. But I've always loved, for one, his facial expressions. People say he's probably out of the three, he's probably the least talented actor, and I would have to say, if you go just off of facial expressions alone, he kills the three of them. He's maybe not his delivery and maybe not his range, but his facial expressions alone. The one that really gets me, one of the scenes that really stands out in this is the doppelganger scene, right?
Oh my God!
Number 7 is a big part about this, but when they bring them all in and the polyjuice potion. When we got polyjuice potion in the second movie, everybody's like, oh, this is some, tough shit. Now, like, it's very rare and all this. This shit is thrown around so much you could get it at 7-Eleven at this point. Everybody's got polyjuice potion. But anyways, the kid, or the 7 of them, you got the twins, Fleur. Who else is there? Mundungus.
Yeah. Mad Eye Moody.
Mad Eye Movie, but the 7 of them are becoming Potters, and just the range that they go down, and they're all the line from that is hilarious too, because Mad Eye's like, fair warning, it tastes like goblin piss, and one of the brothers is like, got a lot of experience with that there, just they're comedy geniuses, but each one of them taking a sip, and we get the slight transformation started. I think the twins are the first to take it, and they kind of shrink a little bit, and then Mundungus takes it, and he kind of grows. Then we get Fleur, she kind of starts to change, and then if you get to Ron's face, and if you just look at it, I don't even think they put any kind of CGI on him. He just screws his face all up like he's being tortured. And then the most hideous thing I've ever seen, and that's Harry's face on Hermione's head. Something about it just looks wrong. It just like, oh,
I know.
Poor girl.
Well, the bra, like, takes off the bra. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's a girl, but it's not a girl. It's a guy.
Don't look at me.
But it's not a guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the twins right away, hey, we're identical,
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
This is one of the scenes that probably has the most humor in it, and it shortly ends after this. The humor goes away mostly. There's still some little things in it, but not as much. But the beginning of this is great. Also, just a kind of an ingenious way to launch Harry out of this. Your protections are over, and now we're gonna this world's gonna blow up on you. When they all take off, and then the shit hits the fan, and like, holy crap! It's like a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's like they're flying into a cyclone.
It is. It's that tick tick tick, and that's all the getting ready for it. And then when I think it's Mad Eye says take off or whatever, or go, and everybody starts flying off, and then it just hits, and it's just chaos.
Remember that scene in Poltergeist when they open the door and everything's flying around?
Yeah.
And the little, like the compass spins in front, and the talking
little
thing.
horse.
Yeah.
And figure.
It's like that, or like in Wizard of Oz when everything's flying around and stuff. Yeah.
Just a great scene. It's interesting that, we went from just this crazy comedy, fun part of Harry Potter, what we're used to in some of the early ones, to this chaos of this is what this is now going to be. Is like, holy crap. We took you from, it's almost like the transformation of Harry in a way too, right? He was a child, and we laughed with him, and oh, you're a wizard, Harry. And, the laughing and all that, to now it's like, oh shit, Hagrid just got cursed and dead, and everything's going crazy.
This is an interesting one, in how much it takes away from the audience's security blanket. We're so used to seeing a Harry Potter movie where there's Hogwarts, and there's all these characters you're familiar with, and there's just the wizarding world. And here, right off the bat, they kill off some characters. They don't go to Hogwarts. They stop the train. And then you end up in the middle of the city in a diner. It's just like suddenly you just feel so off balance. It's an interesting place to kind of throw the audience into, which is effective, because that's basically what the characters are being put through. They're completely all their security has been taken away.
Well, this also starts off a little different too. Even before that scene, we get a kind of somberness going on. They're going back and forth between Harry and Hermione. Hermione's doing the obliviate curse, or I don't know if it's a curse or just spell, on her parents, so that they no longer remember her. And it's like,
that was awful.
When you're watching it at first, you're kind of like, what's going on? If you know the book and they go into detail about what it is, you're like, holy shit. And then this is one of the things I really dislike about them having a cut scene and leaving it out in this movie, is there's the interactions with the Dursleys and Harry. In the book, it's kind of what it is. He has his little row with the dad. It goes in a little bit more into like, you're just trying to get my house. And it's like, nobody wants this fucking dump. Don't you know I got another house already? And the same kind of shit. But what it does, it's very moving, and there is a cut scene from it. You can go and watch it. It's Dudley. They're getting into the car, and he's like, well, what about Harry? And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, doesn't he need to come with us to be safe? And you're kind of like, wait a minute, what? And the dad shits on him again, and he calls him a waste of space, and Dudley says, I don't think you're a waste of space. And you're just like, what? Like there's this transformation in him that you're like, holy crap, like this kid gave a crap about him. It's kind of like how I've always felt about my best friends and people like that, is like, I can pick on you, but no one else can, right?
Sure, yeah.
Kind of thing. And you feel the care in it. And it's like, oh man, I wish they would have left that in there, just because it's emotional in the book, and it redeems them a little bit in your mind.
Yeah, brotherly love comes out in odd ways in real life. It's not all about all about showing your love in beautiful ways. It's showing your love in destructive ways. All these ways. Stop hitting yourself.
Right, no.
That sort of shit.
and I think Dudley can appreciate that Harry was actually trying to, like, especially in a couple movies ago,
when he saved him,
when he was being attacked by the Dementors, and he saved his life. I think he appreciates that, even if he can't express it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what they were saying, is like him just saying that alone is his way of saying that, I actually love you, and kind of stuff. And it's like, whoa. And then there's another part with the aunt, not as moving. She basically says, I understand what's going on. She goes, you might have lost a mom, but I lost a sister. Kind of like, well, okay, but why'd you treat me like shit, you little fuck?
Is there anything more that's talked about that in the second movie? I can't remember, with Aunt Petunia. Because she becomes, there's a lot more backstory with her in the book. I
don't remember.
Okay.
There is a scene in the second movie, where we find out why she's scared of magic a little bit.
Yeah. She becomes more of a
seven, or the second.
The second, the second movie, the second part of 7.
Part 2.
Okay.
Second part of 7. Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll wait to talk about her until we get to the next podcast, in case something else.
Yeah. And they go more into the book part. It's funny. I listened to the book again, but I stopped just after where the movie would have ended, so that I don't get too caught up into the.
Well, I didn't read the book yet. I do still plan to, but I only watched the movie this time. Did they keep it pretty linear to the book, this part, or did they have to kind of rearrange it a little bit just to kind of give it its own little mini climax, in a sense?
I think they kind of they stayed
stuck with it.
Pretty close to it. It starts. I mean, it pretty much goes the way it is. The scene, where the Death Eaters and Voldemort are having their discussion and stuff like that, it's a little different, but it hits most of the main. I think they emphasize some stuff on this that makes it more cinematic, and leave out some of the little backstory that would be nice, but not necessarily visually pleasing, if that makes sense.
I was really surprised how many more characters we were introduced here in this movie. Not only, I mean, they weren't new to the book, because like Mundungus or Bill, or there's a lot of characters that were introduced at that scene you're talking about with Voldemort, that we'd read about in previous books, but it wasn't until this movie when they kind of had the ability to relax into the story a little bit more, to stretch it out, to give us some more character interaction.
Well, they also needed them in the story, because they have to play roles that other people don't, and it don't make sense to combined.
True, but yeah, I think the pace could probably lend itself to fleshing out the characters a little bit more rather than having to. Sometimes when they're doing adaptations, you take 5 characters and you merge them into 2 characters or something like that, just because it's character overload in a 2-hour movie. But if you've got a 4 or 5 hour movie because you're splitting it up, you don't have to merge those characters like it
in
seemed
that
like
scene with the
movies.
seven Potters, right? We get introduced kind of to Bill Weasley
and
Mundungus,
who were big characters in previous books,
Yeah, Mundungus he comes all the way in from 5, I think.
Yeah,
we actually
Order of the
see him 'cause
Phoenix.
He's part of the Order of the Phoenix, and then they give it a little shout out in this one, just a very quick. Where Bill has his scars, that was from
the werewolf scars. Yeah, he was attacked by
because he fought what's his bucket, the main werewolf, Phineas.
So I can't remember the name.
Is it Gray something?
Yeah, Greyback.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they fight on top of the tower when in the Death of Dumbledore scene.
That's the climax that they didn't really lean into in the movie. Yeah.
And so
I thought the same thing.
Go ahead.
Steve, go back to what you said just a few minutes ago. It seemed like they did introduce quite a few characters, and I would absolutely say that I felt the same way. I'm like, wait a minute, like we're like almost done. And here we are introducing like all these new names, and it's like I was just getting used to all the people that were in it already, and now I have to remember all these new people. And
well,
then,
that's
like,
the beauty of it. You really don't have to remember all of them.
Yeah, exactly. But then I was like, oh, I guess I don't have to remember too many of them. So, and then go ahead.
Rufus Scrimgeour in the very beginning, played by Bill Nye.
Yeah, that was
his face, and then he's dead. Well, I mean, he comes and gives out some gifts, and has his ugly face kind of scrunched up and stuff like it. And it's funny, I know Bill Nye is a different actor, but every time I hear someone talk about Bill Nye, I can only think of Bill Nye the Science Guy, and I'm like, wait, that wasn't him, or is he? Is he that good of an actor that he's doing that too? I was like,
it's just a guy named Bill Nye.
Yeah.
It's spelled differently too.
I always remember him from Love Actually as the aging rock star that's drunk all the time, and he was brilliant in that. But he's a big name, and I think a couple years ago he was nominated for a Best Actor award for a movie that I still need to see, and I can't think of the name of it. So
he was Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh right, the squid face. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Sean's stepdad in Shaun of the Dead.
Oh my God.
For those of that have listened to our Wild Robot, he was the voice of Longneck, which was a pivotal character in that too.
Right.
Wait,
so it's spelled.
We did Wild Robot.
GHY. That's why it's so different.
Yeah.
Okay. The Y is silent, obviously.
I mean, I've heard people say Nighy, but I'm not sure.
Oh, he was in About Time too. I've seen that. That's that's a
good one.
Time movie.
Same director that did Love Actually, I think.
So it's funny that we start off with him, and he's just a lot of people that I was listening to do podcast on this one were talking about how his pronunciation of everything and how he brings this gravitas to what
good
he's
word
saying.
And that's how they start the movie, is just with his voice. And he leans into it. Yeah. he was introduced only in Half-Blood Prince as far as the books are concerned. He was they brought him in. Yeah. Well, he shows up and talks to the actual prime minister, that whole scene where
right in the book. Yeah. In the book, but they don't do it in the movie. But
that's what I mean. And
they mention his name in the movie because they say he replaces Fudge through somehow, but that's all.
But here it's like, here we go, and then we pull the rug out from under him. But he is able to deliver all the Dumbledore's
toys.
I bequeath to you, this, all these Lord of the Rings gifts.
The put outer, right? Which is, if you go back to book 1, that's what it's called. Dumbledore's toy. His light removing thing, they call it a put outer in the book 1, and then later on it might even been in the movie they rename it to the deluminator, which sounds fancier, but I think Dumbledore liked the put outer. The little book with the fairy tales for wizard children, or the grim books of Magic Land.
I'm glad they gave that additional significance than just this ability to put out light, because I remember in the original movie, that was it. Boom, I'm going to take the lights out and I need this device. And I always thought, well, dude, you got a fucking wand. Why do you need this special device to do this? Isn't that what magic's for? But they lean into, it's got more than just that ability, I think. So
what I understand the idea behind it is it removes all light, so it puts it in complete darkness.
Yeah,
is the idea. But the one thing I remember more than anything about it is the sound from the first movie. It's got a very distinct kind of sound when in the very beginning. I mean, that's
done.
like the first.
Well done. They could have just they could have Foley artist just shoved a mic into your voice right there and pulled that out and thrown it on the screen. Perfect.
It's something about that first movie, and one of the reasons I still love that first movie. It just starts with that, and it's just like, oh, we're in a magic world now. There's something about it. And
not only that, you get the Deluminator again, and you also get Hagrid's buggy. Motorbike. Like, yes, because that always seemed kind of silly in the first movie. But here, now they're bringing it back, and you're like, yeah. And if you get to the books, you'll actually realize that was Sirius's Black's motorcycle. Nice,
because he was a cool guy. He was kind of a biker dude. But yeah, and we get an explanation why Hagrid rides the motorcycle and not a broom, and it's because brooms have weight limits apparently. So the wizards are body shamist apparently, and they don't make brooms for big guys.
Got it.
So
that's cool.
He could ride like one of those He could ride like one of those big push brooms like they use in...
Oh, that would have been hilarious. That would have... Oh, my God.
That would have been pretty good.
Or maybe
an industrial vacuum
cleaner.
Like a fan fiction just so I could put that in there.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we're going from this. But yeah, so...
We were on Bill Nye. I think we were talking about different characters.
Yeah, we were starting about the beginning and
I think we were about to the wedding or something.
Well, that's we start with them very somber about leaving the house, and then it touches on Harry opening up the closet he used to live under, the stairwell, just all these little touches of like the member me's, and this touching thing, and even Ron standing outside his family's house, kind of just looking like, oh shit, everything's about to change. And then we get our kind of fun 7 Harry doppelgangers and everybody running off. We also get a throwaway line in there really quick for those that know the books that Tonks is getting ready to tell Harry that she's pregnant, and then someone steps over her line and she doesn't even get to deliver it. So we don't even find out about that, but that's a big part of the second part of the book. But we'll get to that next movie. And then we get the chaos. Then it leads to everybody showing up at the Weasleys. What are the Burrow?
The Burrow, right?
The Burrow.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on in there too, but it starts off with Harry and Hagrid showing up first, and Molly coming out and like, where the fuck's everybody else? In the books, they were actually supposed to go to 7 different safe houses and Portkey in. Harry was supposed to be the third one in, and the first 2 didn't show. So they're in the books. They get it really drama going. What's going on? And but the one that we get next is I believe it is Lupin shows up with George, and he's helping him walk in because George's head's all fucked up.
Right.
And
he lost an ear, right?
This is where we realize this isn't your normal Harry Potter. Not everybody's walking away from this. Outside, I mean, we did get a little bit of that with Cedric Diggory in the 4th movie, but slowly more on. But this is the first one that's wounded, like not just you're dead, no pain. This is like they talk about dark curses, you can't heal them, and maybe that's why Mad Eye movie was so fucked up.
Yeah, you get a quick right away. You get that sense of vulnerability that this is not going to be a happy ending necessarily, where everyone survives and we move forward. It's just there are going to be casualties, there are going to be wounded. So yeah,
and then everybody else shows up except for Mad Eye, and we get an off-screen death.
Sure, we did already got the on-screen death of Hedwig, so which you mentioned. So right away, boom, they take out 2 people.
Yeah,
and wound.
Yeah, we get Hedwig, and then we get a crazy roller coaster ride in a fight with Voldemort.
Voldemort. Oh my God, I know.
Yeah, and him and getting pissed off and shooting off lightning and blowing up all kinds of electrical wires. You know, he's got some anger issues for sure.
Voldemort? No kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, so that, you know, and then, you know, of course, you know, it's one of the twins that get hurt, but they are still the twins. You know, we get the lovely joke, and he's, you know, saint like, and he's like, "What? I'm holy."
It's so stupid.
You know,
but yeah,
it's so stupid but funny at the same time.
It's almost like a dad joke, but it's between twins, and so it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the parents are kind of like, "Oh, I'm glad you're okay, and now we can tell you apart. No more of this. Oh, I am George, Mom." Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like, enough of your jokes, you fuckers. But then, you know, we get the wedding. There's a little interlude in between there where
well, Scrimgeour shows up and delivers the Deluminator and the snitch.
I think it's even before that, though.
Okay.
I think Harry starts to walk off. Well, there's also that, but
okay.
Harry.
I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of. Okay, sorry.
No. I'll get to that. I'll get to that. I do want to talk to that because I got some feelings for that. And then no, but Harry does his little walk off, right, where he's like, you know, I can't do this. I don't want anybody to die for me.
And Ron chases him down and says, "What the fuck are you doing?"
And fucking does what a best friend does. It says, "Look, motherfucker, this is, you know, we don't do this just because we want to do this. We do this because that's who we are, and that's who you are."
Yeah, you can't take that away. He says you can't take that away from us. We are a part of this too. You can't just run off and claim this as your own plight. Your own. You're not the. You know, you might be the holy one, but we're gonna all go. We're with you. You know,
doing the deep dives like we've done to podcast for this made me look more and more at Harry, and he is a whiny little bitch a lot of times. You know,
he's a kid, though. I mean,
I know, but it's also one of those. It's like everybody thinks of him as like, oh, he's so great, and it's like, no, he was kind of a shit a lot of times, and he was kind of a whiny bitch. I mean, granted, he got thrust this on him. He didn't ask for this. He didn't ask for, you know, but it's also one of those. It's like, God, when you think back about it, it's like, and not to say that I've never been this kind of person either, but it's like, dude, you don't have to be that way. You know, you don't always have to take it on in your own. You don't have to always be the hero. You know, there's just something about it that always makes me go, God, what a little shit sometimes.
I know it's almost like that's always the case. Is there a little shit? But on the alternative side is that they're always perfect, and that's completely ridiculous. We don't want someone that's just always perfect. You know, that's.
And I don't think he's whining just for the sake of whining. It's not like he's like, oh, what was me? Why am I always the one who has to? It's more like, you shouldn't have to get hurt on my behalf, which is
I get that. Which is not an unkind thing. I mean, that's a very common thing actually for like the hero to be like, I 100% agree with you. And if I put myself in the Harry Potter role, like if myself, that's my mentality too. Stand behind me. I'm not going to let you get hurt on my behalf. I'm gonna take this on my own. But also, I'm the same guy that if I was Ron, I'd be like, nah, bitch, we go in this together. But you know what I mean?
From a book's perspective, you know that the author has to write in the inner turmoil that's going on with the character.
Yeah,
and so
I know.
You're going to get that whininess because they're struggling with, do I really want to do this? Oh my God, I'd rather just be a whiny bitch and go hide in the corner.
But that's what I'm
saying. They overcome that, and they have to somehow represent that in the movie.
I mean, she you know, she kind of ripped off the Bible with Jesus in Gethsemane, like, God, take this from me.
That's
you know?
true, and he was almost 30, so he had plenty more time to mature. You know?
Well, and my main point on that is more the fact that I see it more in a deep dive now when I'm trying to analyze as I watch instead of just sit back and enjoy the magic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I'm also,
Sure.
you know, what was this? This was 15 years ago, right? I've gone through a lot of shit in 15 years. And so maybe I'm a different person now and I see it a little different too. But it's just one of those, it's like, oh my God. Daniel Radcliffe was fouled at.
Absolutely. We'll keep that in mind. Daniel Radcliffe, as an actor, had to contend with all this stuff as well. You know, he's playing a character that sometimes has to be a whiny bitch. And I'm sure a lot of people like, what the hell? You know, you're supposed to be our savior. You're supposed to be our martyr and stuff like that. And you're a whiny bitch. Stop portraying him that way. You know, but it's like, well, that's what's written, and that's what we're trying to lean into sometimes.
No,
you show that struggle.
And I don't want to make it sound like he's 17. You know, I'm sure I was a whiny bitch at times too.
He got through it well. No, I mean, I'm still nervous about whoever they cast for the next Harry Potter HBO series because already there's so much 100%. Weight on that with the whole transgender stuff from J.K. Rowling and all the different casting choices that are going on, that it's just doomed, and whoever they cast in those young roles is going to be bombarded with so much shit that they didn't bring on themselves. And so I'm just crossing my fingers that they navigate that well, because there's no reason for that stuff.
So what I do want to
back to this one,
what I do want to, and we're going to talk to about it now. You brought it up a little bit earlier. Harry got his moment with Ginny, you know, the zip me up and their kiss, and then George just being that big brother from the couch, that made me laugh. I'm like,
the way he's just like in the background watching, well,
not saying don't do it or not saying continue, just go do you, whatever. I'm just gonna be here.
I really thought the moment between them when she needed to be zipped up and she had her back exposed, there was something really kind of sensual about that moment, which I don't want to lean into too much because I'm in my 50s and they were in their teens, but still I thought
they were all 18.
But you were in your 40s when it first happened.
Okay. All I'm saying is that I thought it was a very effective moment of kind of the sensual connection between two teenagers that was effective, and all you're dealing with is the skin on someone's back, you know, that. Yeah. Okay.
What I thought was interesting. No, what it did for me, and this is, and I don't know if everybody saw this the same way, is I've always resonated with Harry's love for Ginny, like his affection for her and his attraction to her and his crush on her and vice versa and stuff like that, and the awkwardness you feel around that person that you have that crush on. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of that, you know, they had their little bit of time at school, and you know they talk about it a lot in the books. He's like, God, I wish I could just go back to those free time periods where we got to lay under the trees together and stuff like that. And you know, and then they had that ultimate breakup where he said, look, I got to go do this and I can't bring you into this with me. And she said, I understand. And so it's like one of those is like, you can feel the tension between them. It's because it's like they want to be there for each other, but they know what's going on. And in Ginny, in this case, is actually showing a higher level of
maturity.
Mature, great word. I was looking at like grown up in this, but no, maturity is the perfect word for that.
Grown up in this works.
But you know what I mean? It's just like they're not acting like 16 and 17-year-olds. They're well, I don't know. I don't really. They weren't acting like I would have at 16 and 17. But you know, it's just one of those. It's like you feel for them because it's interesting. Now, I don't know how you guys felt. I didn't see it myself, but people were saying like there was no chemistry between Ginny and Harry.
Oh, I thought there was.
And I was like, I thought there was, but you know,
for teenagers to make it.
I was going to say it's and not just teenagers, but like teenagers in a children's movie. I mean, you can't, you know, it's like you can't pan to the fireplace. It's not, you know, it's. it has to be very chaste and very kind of
Yeah, they're not doing Pretty Woman. They're doing Harry Potter.
No, right, exactly. So yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought they were both very sweet. Like you said, like awkward and kind of like it's like this is the first
They're new to this.
real love for both of them. Yeah, exactly. And,
Harry's probably still practicing kissing his hand to make sure he's doing it right.
I think I talked about it last podcast or maybe the one before about Harry Potter. But when you're casting young actors that are eventually going to grow up and have chemistry, you can't cast them at a young age for their chemistry. You're just going to cross your fingers. Like Ron and Hermione in the books, they end up with chemistry, and you can weigh whether or not they had chemistry in the movie. I think Jenny and Harry had a really good chemistry. I think they had to work at Ron and Hermione. There was something they worked a different angle, and they made it work.
Well, I think they had they had the chemistry that they had in the book, where it wasn't that romantic. Oh my God, it's hot and steamy, love story. It's more like, you complete me. Like, you know what I mean? It's more like
in the
like
movies.
You're part of me.
In the movies, I think we're so used to seeing the well cast, attractive people that have chemistry because they're pretty or something like that, but that's not how chemistry works.
Are you saying something against Rupert Grint that he's not pretty?
No, I
mean, you're not wrong. He's not a handsome.
He's not cinematically. He's not a leading man pretty. He's not a Cary Grant type pretty.
But he also wasn't that in the book.
No, but and that's what I think a lot of audiences are accustomed to, and so they're gonna shit on that, and that's not how typical adult casting works. When you're casting for chemistry, you cast them, you bring them together. Do these work right? Do these characters look like they have chemistry? But that's not the true essence of chemistry, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what, Ron.
So it's just a harder hurdle.
Ron Weasley is a god and a hero to anybody who's ever been a wingman or was stuck in the wingman position, because he gets the ultimate come up in the end. But he is the ultimate wingman. And he always was, and so I maybe that's why I like Ron more, because I was always a wingman. I was never the front guy. I was always running that wing. So that's what he is in this story, and he does it perfectly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And also their relationship.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and also their relationship is not the stereotypical
No.
He sees her and his eyes bug out, and she sees him and she goes weak in the knees and gets all giggly. It's more like she kind of takes charge, and he's like, "Oh, what a woman!" It's just it's like I really like that relationship, because it's like he respects her as a whole person. He's not, he's like,
what this is though too. This is, I'm gonna pull that girl's hair because I think she's cute. Right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how they started. That's exactly how they started. Shitting on each other because they kind of were into each other, but it's also like, I can't let him know I like him, so I gotta make fun of him, and that's how it always was. But and there's a great line through this one that kind of shows that, and they both get a chance to say that it's always a tone of surprise. And it starts with in this scene where Tonks comes back and she's like, "Oh, he was brilliant, without him I'd be dead," and stuff. And then they're like, "Oh," and then Hermione kind of does something. He's always the tone of surprise. And then it comes back at the end of the movie. There's something else that goes in, and she gets to say it back to him and kind of thing. And it's a perfect play to them and their relationship. And so I'm glad we got to talk about that. There's one more thing, and I don't know if we want to talk about it yet because it's towards the end of the movie, but it's another big. It was part of the book, but I also think it's a fan favorite thing that they think that should have happened in this movie that is a big part of it. But it's also a relationship. Let's just talk about it. We'll jump around. There's a time when Ron leaves, right? He bugs out because he wore the ring too long and got too caught up in the precious and started talking shit to Harry.
Nice
and
nod
so
towards Beau's frustration with that. Yeah.
So they blow up at each other, and then he storms out, and Hermione runs out after him. But he's like, he gives her the ultimatum. Is like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. Are you coming with me? And she said no. And he's like, oh, well, fuck that then. I'm out. Well, he leaves like guys do, because we blow up and we live on a nerve on the end of our skin, and we just blow up. But then he can't find his way back. But then he does in this great scene where Harry follows a Doe Patronus, sees the sword of Gryffindor at the bottom of a frozen lake, goes in and almost gets killed by the Horcrux. Ron saves him, and then it leads to them deciding to, okay, let's fucking blow up this Horcrux now. And he's like, well, how are you gonna do it? He's like, I'm gonna talk to it, open it up, which I was listening to. They're really funny. It's called I think it's called streaming things. There's two guys, and they do voices a lot, but they did a little bit
like Stranger Things, but streaming things, kind of.
Yeah, and they cover series mostly, but they're doing these movies, and they do these voices. And he's like, "Well, what are you gonna say?" I'm just gonna ask you to open up, please, and stuff like that. And I was laughing, I was dying. It was really good. But yeah, anyways, so they open it up, and the Horcrux, pulls this switcheroo on Ron and shows him all his deepest, darkest fears, his inner
demons. Yeah, well, okay, yeah, sure.
And when that's going on, I was like, fuck, man, I get it. When I was 16 and 17, that's the same kind of shit I was always thinking. Like, so-and-so's better than me at this, or the girl I likes this dude because why would she like me?
Sure.
All that stuff.
And it's just Harry and Hermione naked.
But that's okay. So this is what I was talking about. So even that happens in the book, but this one, it just goes to the ultimate, and it's bad CG, but it's good CG at the same time. It's weird. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know.
You're talking about the movie, or
the movie where they show Harry and Hermione kissing, and they got the clouds on all the right places, so you don't see anything except for a little bit of Harry's butt. But it's one of those. But this is what a lot of the fandom has said for a long time, that it should have always been Harry and Hermione, right? They always thought that.
You mean they were the ones that should have been destined to be together in the.
Yes, and this is I almost was like, is this a nod to the fans a little bit? What is, other than the fact that it is a perfect representation of the bad thoughts going through Ron's mind, like of his inadequacies and what would be his worst fears. Yeah, right. His girl with his best friend.
Yeah, I think it's perfect.
You lose both.
Yeah, I think it's perfect that the book kind of defied our predisposed beliefs that the hero and the heroine, the leads, should be the ones that come together in the end, because that's
right.
It's
agree
better to throw that out. And
I like
do
the way the book
little...
was written, because it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, but you're right. It could be like they're trolling the fans that really wanted to see that.
Yes. Yeah. But it's perfect for Ron.
Good on J.K. Rowling. Was that in the book too? Did they?
It was. I don't remember if they were kissing though. I don't remember that.
They were
part.
together. But he was faced with his jealousy.
Worst fears.
Yeah.
Or his worst. Yeah.
Maybe they're secretly brother and sister.
Well, that.
I don't know where they would steal that from.
Yeah. Well, they had to kind of balance their own chemistry too. I mean, Hermione and Harry, the actors. Daniel and yes, thank you, because they had that whole sequence where they're dancing, and it was
that is not in the book.
No, I love that they leaned into that, because that's stuff that's hard to capture in a book. A book can go through dialogue and do all this sort of stuff, but it was a cinematic moment, and it was a risk, because you're really leaning into how good the actors are if they could pull off that moment.
Well, but it also is a weird thing where it's like, where's that lead? Like, a lot of people were talking about, like, oh my God, that's not right. There's more there. Matter of fact, there was one I listened to, and I think it's called The Two Chicks from Work or something like that. And they had a 30-minute discussion on, is it okay to dance with your best friend's significant other?
I think they were leaning to the fact that this is this is wartime. You know, all we're trying to do is find
yeah.
a moment of just connection where there is so much turmoil and chaos going around. They just needed a connection. And if it meant flirting with this idea of touch, and I mean, it was okay that it was sensual, but at the same time, you could see that it was all friendship. I think they pulled it off. It was a risky move from the director to kind of put that scene in, or the writer, whoever leaned into it.
It's all over the board.
I thought it worked, and I'm glad this movie leaned into moments like that where the book couldn't really. That's something that a movie has to do. You can't. Don't
I
get
agree
stuff
with
like
you.
that. Yeah.
But it's a very controversial thing between a lot of people talking about was it wrong because there's that should have been Harry and Hermione. Do you dance with your best friend? Like, did they get a little close? It cuts to black. What's going on?
And that's a fair thing. I've done things in my past that are completely innocent and pure, but I could see someone looking at him and saying, "Oh man,
there you go.
You're cheating in a certain way." And
what do you think? Sorry, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Well, that's what do you think? That's the thing. You play it back in your mind, just like audiences are playing this scene back, and they have a bird's eye view of it, other than where normally that would be a private moment, but.
So here's the thought I had on this, and this is I think will lead people to see things differently. As a male, I didn't have a lot of super close female friends that I would consider just like, oh, she was a best friend type thing. I had girlfriends, both, like sexually attraction and relationship, and I had friends that were girls, but never to the point where I was telling my deepest, darkest secrets and was crying on the shoulder or was there for them. Now, if you were one of those people that on either side of that, either the male or the female side, that had a close friend of the opposite sex, you might get that a little bit more, where if you were someone that wasn't like that, it might seem a little different. You know what I mean? Because to me, I was like, and this might show and the reasons I don't know if I had girls friends that were that close is because most of the girls that I liked enough to do that, I also liked, in a more, relationship style type too. So like if I was dancing with them, I was thinking of more than just, I'm just trying to cheer you up.
Yeah, this is the whole When Harry Met Sally scene where they talk about whether or not men and women can be friends if they're attracted to each other,
Yeah, so that it was an interesting scene, and that it wasn't in the book is interesting. That's one of the things for me that was like, oh, are we trolling people again? Is that really what it was? You're on mute, Nina.
So you think it's okay, Noah, if for a guy to dance with another guy's girl? Is that what am I picking that up, or am I?
I don't know.
Oh, now we're getting into the Pulp Fiction massage. Can you massage?
I'm going to put it. I was just going to put it in this way. Very similar fashion. Let's say you were coming late to a party, and you come strolling in, and there's Steve dancing with Alyssa, like Harry was dancing with.
See, Hermione. Now that's a little different because I know Steve well enough.
They're best friends, so that's the thing. So Harry and
but Ron also okay. Now, if I heard that like Steve and Alyssa went to Monterey for the weekend and were slow dancing in the room, I might be like,
Yeah, but
we didn't do that, Noah. I don't know what you're talking about.
But I get your
Monterey.
Point.
We didn't go to Monterey. Psh.
Bodega Bay.
Palo Alto, maybe. Yeah.
I get your point. So like, so if like out in plain sight, not as big of a deal. Out in plain sight, not as big of a deal, but in the confines of their own privacy, a little different.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's context. Like, I have danced with lots of other male friends, but it's always at the context of like a wedding reception, and everybody.
Your husband is behind you, going, "What?"
Yes.
Oh, he knows.
He's joking around because it's like
he's probably also danced with women at wedding receptions.
Exactly.
I had to put money on it.
Exactly. And or if you're going out, I was not a clubbing kind of person, but I could see, if you were out with friends at a club or you were out with friends at a bar that had a band or whatever. But yeah, the two of you alone in a tent.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And it seems,
situational.
although when you were saying about how there's a war on, I just like flash back to like every British World War II movie seems to have a scene of like, people in air raid shelters while London's being bombed, and somebody turns on a radio and they all like sing the White Cliffs of Dover to make to cheer themselves up and stuff. It's kind of a
The English
thing.
are crazy. They're
I know
crazy.
it's kind of a thing in British. Yeah, but it's kind of a thing in British movies, and maybe it was something that they did. I mean,
My biggest thought behind it is
we haven't been bombed as a country. I don't know what that does to a person.
Well, we have.
well,
It's
yeah, not in that context. We haven't.
not mainland, but I get it.
Right? Yeah.
hey,
You know what I mean? Not like a nightly occurrence like in London.
Right.
No, what's the club that Alicia's a member of? I mean, I know she's on our horror movie podcast, but we made her a membership card for our, I don't know, the guys with boobs. Guys night with boobs. That's what it was.
It's guys night
It's
with
when you
boobs.
and I would go out with Alicia.
Guys, what with boobs?
Guys night with
It's
boobs.
guys' night with yeah. Guys'
Oh.
night.
I mean, it was. We were just. I mean, that was kind of what we called it because Noah and I would go see a horror movie with Alicia, and it got to be kind of a gag for our wives,
Significant others.
Yeah, that would tease us about it. It's like, and so we actually got her a membership card, and we called it Guys Night with Boobs, and I made it made it kind of an official thing. But it's just kind of leaning into that idea is that we're going out with someone who's of the opposite sex that we're having fun with, and
Yeah. Well, it's just an interesting thing because it wasn't part of the book, and it led into that whole Harry Hermione should have been together. And I was just curious on your guys' thoughts on it because a lot of people talked about that scene, and a lot of people talked about the what Ron saw and what the Horcrux tried to infuriate him with and get into his deepest darkest fears. And so I was just curious what other people thought, or I heard what some other people thought, and I was curious what you guys thought on that. So that's where I brought that up. And
I mean, I know that there's. I'll tell you this: this is the thing in the shipping and fandom.
Oh God.
Where, it has ruined so many good fandoms.
Yes.
It's so annoying. It's like, the lead should be with this person or this person, and if they're not with this person, then it's just terrible. And it's like, Buffy went through it. Hunger Games went through it. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I remember. I remember reading the True Blood books. There were like 15 of them, and
Stackhouse.
the Suki Stackhouse, and everybody wanted her to be with Bill the Vampire. But after like book 3 or 4, he kind of like stopped showing up. And then when she ended up with somebody else, people were like, "This is bullshit." And it's like, have you been reading the books? I mean, they've clearly been heading this way.
That's funny. I have the books. I didn't watch, but I did watch the series and really enjoyed that.
I'll tell you this: it's the series diverges from the books pretty early on, but I like the books a lot. The books were just they're short. They're short, and they were not as heavy as the show got kind of heavy with like
it does.
International vampire hijinks, and the books pretty much stayed in the one town. So
okay,
yeah,
I thought they were fun though.
It was it was fun. It was fun. Yeah.
So now I know I mentioned Polyjuice Potion earlier in how the rules seem to have changed from book 2 to this one, where it took 30 days to get and it was really rare and hard to do, and then all of a sudden it was just like we're Polyjuice Potion for every single thing.
Maybe they had their Polyjuice Potion dealer though. After at a certain age, you find the.
It was Mad Eye.
Was it Mad? Yeah, that's true.
Mad Eye was slinging that goblin piss. But so.
Well, I mean that's kind of his specialty though. So.
The funny thing was it wasn't. It was actually Barty Crouch who was pretending to
true.
be. And here's the other thing,
I thought he was using Mad Eye's stash though. He was making it himself.
he made it himself because why would
okay.
Mad Eye need Polyjuice Potion? He's just being himself. Now here's where the rules also changed. In the second movie, the kids kept their voices, right? You had Harry and Ron as Crab and Goyle, but they had their own voices. Now when you get to the fourth book and you got Barty Crouch, he just sounded like Mad Eye Moody and apparently knew enough how to be Mad Eye Moody that he even tricked Dumbledore into believing he was Mad Eye Moody. Then you get back into this one where it's kind of like they got their voices. It's all over the fucking board.
I think it makes more sense that your voice box is going to adjust just like your
change.
So it makes sense that your vocal cords would.
It's just interesting how.
But yeah,
this is a knock against the books, essentially, where it's like they changed as it went. The rules didn't stay the same, and this is new writer kind of creating a world and forgetting how to take notes and make sure you stay on the same page.
And it also seems a little convenient that becomes a solution for almost too many things, like when they break into the Ministry of Magic.
Well, that's what I was going to say, but it did lead to probably the outside of the first doppelganger scene. This is probably the only other scene that had some levity and kind of fun to it. Of the three of them doing their little hijinks, break into the Ministry. The guy that Harry was supposed to be was something Horn.
That's the actor's name. Okay.
Well, no, that was the character name. But he had the leather jacket, and he was supposed to be I think he was like Death Eater adjacent. He was a Ministry employee, but he was kind of like turning in muggles, and his face through the whole thing and the way he kind of walked with this stiff shoulder, he kind of look around, had me cracking up. I was like, this guy is into it. He's like, I am Harry. I am going to be Harry, even though I'm not Harry. And had some fun. Really good stuff through where they kind of kept with everything that happened in the book, essentially. With they used the Fred and George little sneaker scope things that went off to create the diversion.
Right.
The little bombs that duplicate Mad Eye Moody's eye on the door. But this also brought me back to, are we to believe that the Umbridge is on the side of Voldemort, or is she just duped so bad in working for the Ministry?
I don't think she's on the side of Voldemort, but I think she's just so by the book and so, such a bureaucrat that it's like.
I think she drinks the Kool-Aid. I think you can see that in society today, where politics, you see a lot of people that have drunk the Kool-Aid, whether it's left-leaning or right-leaning. I'm not going to get into that. But I just mean, I do think there is relevant. I do think that as far-fetched as it seems, it is a reality in our society. So it makes sense that it would be a reality in the wizarding world as well. Wizarding the world as well. I got some alliteration there. Thank you very much.
I had a friend who was studying to be a teacher when we were all reading these, and she said, "I wonder if Umbridge is like a dig at like the administrators at the schools as opposed to the educators, because the administrators always come in and it's like, well, why don't you do this?" And it's like, even though they have like no experience in education. And I think that's kind of the kind of person that Umbridge is. She's, she's like, well, I know better than everyone because, I'm just a superior person. And
right. And I got part of that.
Just looking more out for yourself. And it's like, I'm going to ride this way because this is I
was kind of with that, except for when she was then questioning and being the whole anti-muggle. Like she was the judge, jury, and executioner in that room with the kind of where did you get the wand thing? Like that just seemed even more out of character for her being, she was not only that, but taking the eye of Mad Eye Moody and stuff like that. That just seemed like Death Eater type shit to me.
Yeah,
And so
I mean,
was
she might have.
curious how everybody else saw it.
I mean, it's like, I mean, like there's people who are like, I'm not racist, but have you ever noticed blah blah blah? And it's like, so it could be like that. Like she's like, I'm not going full Death Eater, but those Muggles are really they're obviously not as elevated as we are, and.
Okay. I just was curious because to me, it was one of those things that seemed like she was just a little too hardcore to fall. Like the best way I can describe this is this will play more into the next movie because just for you guys' information, I did go and watch the second movie because I couldn't just stop at one. I was like, they were like a Lay's potato chip. I just couldn't just eat one. So I had to watch the second movie. I didn't continue the book. But going through some of that other stuff, I was like, oh, shit, okay. But this one, to me, I was kind of like, Voldemort to me would be like if the real Hitler showed up again today.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden took over, how many people would just line up behind him? And it surprises me.
Keep in mind, though, that you say the next Hitler, and if Hitler was reincarnated and he showed up and it was the same Hitler that has the history that's attached to everything, it would be different than if someone just. I'm just saying that I think people have. I don't know how I'm going to say this, but when you're amidst with a person that is, showing these sort of behaviors and stuff, you don't have the backseat driving, or you don't have the context, you don't have the way of looking back and saying this is Hitler. There's history attached to this because you're not there yet. You're not there yet. So it's not. I mean, I think a lot of people are struggling with that. And I'm not saying Trump is Hitler.
I'm not trying to bring any today's politics in this.
I know,
My
but
thought
okay.
Well, let's go
Voldemort
Genghis Khan.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out a very bad guy that everybody knows did bad shit from the past.
So here's the thing. Here's how I think about it. If he came back and you had all the history, you knew what he was going to do, and you knew he was going to kill whoever it is, millions of people, right? Darth Vader. I don't know, right? I mean, let's talk somebody fictional, right? Like he's millions of people follow him, but they knew he was doing bad shit and they kept following him. Like people will follow bad people.
Did you guys ever
more than unfortunately more than they should?
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen the movie A Night at the Garden?
Nope.
No.
Doesn't sound familiar.
It won the Oscar for Best Short Documentary. It's really short. It's about 15 minutes. No, this is a couple years ago.
Okay, gotcha. I'm not questioning you. I'm just putting context.
No, it's okay.
In the Garden is what you said?
A Night at the Garden.
A Night at the Garden.
And it's real short. It's maybe like 15 minutes long. And it's essentially footage. It's I wouldn't even call it a documentary. It's basically they found footage of this pro-Germany rally that took place at Madison Square Garden in like 1937.
I was going to ask if it took place at Madison Square Garden actually as a joke. It actually did. That's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. And it's really kind of terrifying because it's Madison Square Garden. So it's packed. It's huge. It's full. There's all these people and they have the stage has like the swastikas, and in the middle of the stage is a picture of George Washington. And people are like saying like we should be supporting Chancellor Hitler and the Germans because they're trying to get rid of this bad element. And like people were protesting, and like this one guy jumps on stage and tries to stop them, and he's like beaten, and it's all this stuff. And so it's like those people didn't just go away after World War II. Probably when we started fighting against the Germans in World War II, they probably kept their mouths shut and kept their heads down. But
wasn't that a whole big thing from the 60s of the root out the communists? So
yeah,
I
but the
gotta do that.
I mean the
McCarthy era,
communists
yeah.
were.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it was
McCarthy.
like that was complete. That was like different. That was completely different. I mean, it was not the Nazis.
That's what it. Well, it was
So-
going after people that probably were. I get what you're saying, but yes.
I mean, the communists were anti-Nazi. I mean, that was one of the things that like people who were pro-Nazi were like, yeah, they're standing up to the communists. And so, you have to think as, once the war started, like I said, they kept their heads down. But like in 1955, and they have kids and jobs in the suburbs and everything. Do you think they're like, oh, I was 100% wrong about that Hitler guy? No, they're telling their kids, it's like, they're saying, oh, you know what? I kind of supported him at first because, I kind of agreed with him about whatever, the communists, the Jews, whatever. That didn't go away. And
Yeah, it'd be
it's the same
interesting.
thing. It's the same thing here with Voldemort. It's like you had this war, and it was, half the wizards against the other half, and then the war is over, and
Well, that's what seems weird to me.
It's kind of like, well, he's gone now, and like everybody, we'll just go back to the way things were. But the people who followed him are still like, well no, he was right
what
about
I was
the
thinking
mudbloods,
about though. The first 4-5 books even show what seems to be Voldemort had a small following, but they were very brutal. It wasn't like they had a mass populace behind it. But now when you get to this, all of a sudden it seems like there's this mass populace behind it, where it just, to me, it didn't make as much sense as like, how did you go from this small number of Death Eaters terrorizing people, a small percentage of them, to all of a sudden like,
well, I mean, we talked about this before. How many wizards are there in England?
That's
Not
the
that
other
many.
thing is, well, that's
I mean,
the other
if,
thing that shows
if
in this.
if there's only say 1,000 wizards, 200's a pretty large percentage,
Well, and they all work at the ministry, because there was
Right.
about 500 people in there.
Well,
Yeah,
what,
but-
did the book go in? You're talking. Are these coming from ideas you
I'm just
brought
saying-
from the book or from the movie?
No,
I mean,
it's actually more from the
it's-
movie.
Okay.
More from the movie, because how many people seem to just toe the line and were like okay with what was going on.
What about Umbridge? You talked about Umbridge and her character. Is that a representation of what you saw in the movie, or did the book?
Yes,
kind of-
because in the movie, well, I'm going more from the movie in this one, where she, in the movie that she was in, right, she was very much part of the Ministry of Magic, right? She's all about the Ministry. She was fucking Fudge is the man. He's got all these plans.
Sure.
He's
Yeah.
now these guys come in and kill not kill Fudge, but kill
Scrimgeour. Yeah.
Scrimgeour. You would think that she's just like, oh, okay, well, you killed him, so now you're the new boss. I'll just follow you. That didn't seem in line with her personality from the first movie she was in.
You're again talking about the movies, right?
I think the movies they kind of really hit her.
I say that because the actor Imelda, what's her name? Stanton.
Imelda Staunton.
Thank you. When she came into Order of the Phoenix, and the seventh book probably wasn't out yet, and so she's basing her character off of that.
But the book is pretty close to the movie in this case.
I just mean that now there's more context to the character, and she has to kind of merge those in a way that it doesn't seem like there's an inconsistency with her portrayal. Now again, it's been
I think it's
15 years since I read Deathly Hallows, so I'm anxious to read it again to kind of get a better feel.
You
for that.
saw what she was from the movie and the book. She is not very different.
Yeah.
In this case.
Okay. Then maybe maybe it was also just the way that
I just was surprised
Rowling's
that
wrote the
everybody
character.
was just towing the line and like, okay, Death Eaters are my boss now, and I'm okay with that.
We were
rather
talking.
than
You brought up A Night at the Garden and other movies. I remember the movie that was nominated last year, Zone of Interest, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And that was just
yeah.
It just followed a fan,
Family, right?
a Nazi. They worked at the concentration camp. And a family that just lived right outside the walls of a concentration camp, and it basically kind of followed their day-to-day life. It's like life goes on. You're kind of caught up in this, what turns out to be the worst atrocity of man. But at the time, it was just this movie just explored the menial daily life of this, and so I think that's important to realize that this is still a fantasy. We're dealing with a fantasy, and we're trying to add some sort of human context to it or wizard context to it.
I'll have a bigger gripe in the next movie with some of the stuff that comes out in the next movie that goes along with this too.
But I do think J.K. Rowling as a writer is drawing from real ideas that are, real ways that people act, and we see that in our politics today. We see that in kind of past things. So I would give it a little bit more. I think I lean into the understanding that these are possibilities. These aren't far-fetched. People do behave in crazy ways when you have the ability to look back on it and say, "Oh my God, I don't understand that," but yeah, it does happen. So, but I do understand your point too. I mean, we're trying to. Go ahead.
If I recall correctly, also didn't in the book after the war was over, they made a decision not to have like the wizard equivalents of the Nuremberg trials. They're just like, okay, it's over. Let's just go back to the way things were.
No, they caught any Death Eater they could and threw them in Azkaban or worse. But I mean, most they went through trials and most of them got off, or the ones that got off were like, oh, I was Imperious, right? There was a lot of,
right.
So it seems like a lot of people flipped too quickly to like they were, I don't know. It didn't sit right with me with a lot of it, and I don't know, and I'm not trying to put any today's life logic into it.
A lot of people, what happened with World War II and the aftermath didn't sit right with them. So it feels fair that things don't necessarily sit right.
Maybe. That's why we talk about these things, because everybody has a different look at it, and it's nice to get that.
I'm anxious to reread the book, and I haven't.
It's how we sees it.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly. And that's why we call it.
Yeah. Can I jump to a certain part of this?
What are you watching?
Yeah.
What am I watching right now?
Yeah.
They're at the scene. They're in the kind of court where Harry is. We were just talking about it. Harry's the guy. Harry has the potion where he's the old guy.
Well, you're not that far into it. I thought you'd be.
Yeah, I had to go back. I missed a part. I was watching it before, and I wanted to go back and rewatch.
I was going to say
rewatch.
We're an hour and a half into this podcast.
Seven Harrys or whatever it is.
So he takes the form of Albert Runcorn.
Yeah.
So he's by Dave O'Hara.
So they're in there with the wife and the wife's in the chair and he's standing behind him anyway. But I went back and watched, and I didn't fast forward then back to where I was. So that's why I'm not that far through the movie, because I went back to I was about half an hour past the Battle of the Seven Potters or whatever they call it. So then I lost. I had to watch that half an hour was on again in the background. That's all. So,
okay.
But anyway, my question, I think I'm jumping ahead. I'm definitely jumping ahead, probably from where we are, but we're an hour and 45 in, so I don't feel bad about it.
We jump around, so it's all good.
Yeah. So the one thing I couldn't pick up on, and I'm not back to that part in this movie where I can circle back and watch it again. Why could they only smell Hermione and not see her? Was she?
She put a charm. She put a hex. Yeah, she put some
spells to avoid the Snatchers.
Gotcha. Okay, so, I didn't remember.
Actually,
I didn't remember the spell being cast. Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, she kind of was, and they had a really nice.
A bunch of different ones.
That was actually really well represented in cinematography, where they circled her and they showed them from one angle and they went around, and then behind her, or behind them, you couldn't see her, and then it circles around.
Yeah, gotcha. I must have somehow missed that. Anyway, okay.
So someone was talking about the one was the Confundus, one was the Muggles Noceums. They had like it was this ridiculous name. It was literally something like Muggle Noceus kind of thing. And I was like, oh my god, come on! I know you can get better with the spells than that.
This is where I was leaning into the possibility that she represented the invisibility cloak because she was the one that was casting all these charms. Because I went through a little bit trying to
in the book. In the book, at one point they all three go, "Which would you want?" Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Ron took the wand.
Yeah.
Harry took the stone, and Hermione takes the cloak.
Gotcha.
Interesting. Okay. I'm interested.
And
in
I mean, it
reading
makes
into that
sense.
part.
I mean, Harry would want his parents back, right? So that's why he takes the stone.
Yeah, but Ron was leaning into. I mean, this movie. He had the dialogue about. He kept listening over and over again to the radio, trying to find out if any of his family had passed. Just.
Right.
But no. Ron wants the power to be able to protect everybody around him. He wants to be the best around. He wants to be the top dog. He's always been the second guy to Harry. Why would he want the wand? Because that would make him the top dog. So that is why Ron went with the wand. Harry wants the stone because he wants his family back. Hermione wants the cloak because that is the most practical way to avoid the downfalls of the brothers.
So you're saying that that's what they chose in the book, and I totally understand that. Do you believe that?
That's also my thoughts.
Do you believe that is what they each represent as well? Because when you're making a decision, because I actually went through it. I had Harry as was the invisibility cloak because he inherits it. He uses it wisely, not for power but for protection. Ron was the wand. I did say wand at one point, but then another time I put Harry as the wand. I was trying to actually find different reasoning for what they would represent. I don't think it's easy, but
I think the book, well, it also you have to look at it for different aspects too, because they each come out. I think the way the book explained it really makes sense to me because.
But that's their choices. That's what I mean.
Well, no, but also from point 1 to point 7, book 1 to book 7, Harry's always felt that he was robbed of something because he never got his parents, and that is a big part of his life and a big motivation for him.
It was the first book too, was
right. So that's the stone.
Yeah,
stone would give him a chance to have that. The wand for me is Ron is always the wingman, right? So what does the wingman want? He wants that first seat. He wants to be the top dog. That wand gives you the reason to be the top dog. You now stand up. I mean, we get it in all the stuff with him being keeper, his confidence is low and stuff like that. He wants that next step up to be the bigger guy, and for better or worse, that's what it is. Like, I don't see him as an invisibility cloak. Now, that's the funny thing is the invisibility cloak. It's like, what is that personality? What is because it's not really Hermione either. Because invisibility to me is like, I hide. She does not hide. She is upfront. Every time they ask a question in any fucking classroom they've ever talked about in any movie or book, Hermione is the first to put her hand up. That is not someone who wants to be invisible.
She's the wisdom. She's the wisdom. I mean, I kind of tried at one point to trying to equate it
but none of those represent
spirit,
wisdom.
as spirit, heart, and brain or intellect or wisdom. And mind. I guess is the word I was looking for.
Mind, body,
she
and
is
soul.
definitely the mind. I think Ron is the heart, and I think Harry is the spirit. But then again, where do each of those land with this? And
but that's where the visibility cloak really doesn't represent any of that.
I got to tell you, Noah, your conviction is very convincing, but at the same time, I've heard other arguments that are equally as convincing, and so. I am easily swayed by conviction, and so what you're saying is great. But I've also heard other arguments, so I'm not going to commit to one of the other.
My biggest point on this is Ron really makes sense for me for the wand. Harry makes sense for the stone.
Well, and that
just leaves Hermione for the invisibility cloak, which really doesn't make sense.
Okay,
but I also don't see her as chasing glory, which would be the wand. And I don't really see her looking into the past, which technically would be the stone either. So I'm kind of torn between the two.
Yeah.
Let me put another spin on it for you.
Yes, I know.
All right, spin it.
Nina might not like this. You guys might not like it either. She's the girl. The guys get to pick first, and the cloak was the only thing left.
I mean, that's kind of what I said, but yeah.
I wouldn't put it past J.K. Rowling to have that thought process. I mean, I wouldn't put it past her. I mean,
she actually had a very good reason as why.
If you read about
Hermione,
her politics a little bit, I mean,
I'm not going to talk about that.
No, I know that's fine.
But no, they had a good reason in the book for what it was. I don't remember distinctly, but it made sense in the book what the cloak represented with her specifically.
And she did that to her parents. She kind of put that charm on them. Obliviate. It's almost like she's covering them with the invisibility cloak so that they don't have to remember her, knowing that what she's going through. Like maybe there's some sort of tie in there.
Yeah.
I think you could explain it in different ways. I appreciate that J.K. Rowling's gave each of them a voice to choose, and I'm interested in reading that. But it's a conversation that can be looked at in many different ways, which is exciting to me.
Yeah.
No, it was a good part of the. Like I said, they did a really good part with the book, giving you more. To the characters and to the book itself. I really thought they did a good job. I wish I could remember what it was she actually said in the book about him, but she nailed it down to who gets what, and that's how it came out. Interesting enough too, and you talked about this a little bit, Bo. We got I don't know if you call it a reprieve, a jump to a different medium, but we got the story of the brothers in a cartoon version.
Oh, but
I thought it was super cool.
So much better than a cartoon. I mean, the animation was absolutely beautiful.
When I don't mean cartoon in a
it was animated. It was animated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a hard time saying that, so I say cartoon.
It was cartoon.
You know how like when you're growing up, there's words you can't say? Well, animation was mine, so I stay away from it. I find different ways to say it, but for some reason I could not say animation as a child. But the Deathly Hallows animated representation of the story was a great kind of switch in this, but I've heard people say that they didn't care for it. But I also have heard people like, oh my god,
it was the greatest thing ever. And that wasn't directed by the film director. It was directed and designed by Ben.
Yeah, it was sent off to a different person.
Yeah, so that was a whole separate thing. And boy, what an effective little sequence.
There was
the animation style reminded me of we'll call it a cartoon. It's an animated short. It's not really, I guess it's a short because it's not like it's not like 80 minutes. So I don't know it's not a short, but it's not a movie. Anyway, it's called The Triplets of Belleville. And if you've not seen it. Did they
steal that from this, or did they steal it from the other way?
Interestingly enough, I think they're just related in animation style because The Triplets of Belleville has nothing to do with this kind of a story. Triplets of Belleville actually, I saw it when I was doing a lot of bike riding and Ironman training because it's about bicycling.
Yeah.
But the animation style is quite similar. And it really, like when I saw it, it's one of my favorite animated things. And it's just like, I just thought it was super cool when I saw that style of animation. I was like, wow, this is great kind of a thing. And, anyway.
I mean, if you look at the history of animation, that kind of silhouette kind of animation was done several years before cell animation. Because they could make like a little puppet and like put it together with pins or whatever in the joints to make it move.
So it would move
just,
or whatever and all that, yeah.
Right, and just put it on a lit background.
Yeah.
And get the look, and they wouldn't have to like draw cells.
Right.
So like people will say, oh yeah, Snow White was the first full-length animated film, but it was the first full-length cell animated film.
Oh,
It was actually a film, I think it was Russian maybe or German. That was done in that kind of silhouette animation, and you still see it from time to time. A lot of film students when they when they first do animation, will do stuff similar to that, because, like I said, it's a lot more primitive and accessible than cell animation. You don't need the plastic cells or whatever.
It reminded me of a lot of Bram Stoker's Dracula that Francis Ford Coppola directed decades ago. But at the beginning, I don't think it was actually animation, but they used puppeteering and stuff. But it still had that same kind of type of menacing appeal.
Yeah.
It was a little disturbing the way you watched it, but I really liked how they pulled it off in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and this reminded me of that. So.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's just that. There's probably a lot of things that influenced it. I even got a little whiff of Samurai Jack in there when I was kind of watching it too. So,
nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Kurosawa
Stuff
style. Yeah.
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 So. But go ahead. No, sorry. That was it.
I had a thought and it left me. Like if
we'll wait. Go ahead. Just take your time.
No, what's her name?
Steve can trim.
No, I can't. I'm not editing this. We get all the awkward pauses that come from.
No. What's her name? Luna. If Luna would have saw me, she goes, "Oh, you had a thought. Oh, there it goes. I can see it dimming." Oh damn! I totally lost it now. Anyways, we were
come back.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any of the major scenes that we. Oh, there we go. That's we get this. This leads us to kind of the climax of this movie, right? Where they got the story of the Beetle, the Bard. They were talking to Luna's father, and
trying to figure out what the Deathly Hallows are. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and he had called the Death Eaters in on them essentially, and they're going through all that, and this leads to their capture. And their imprisonment by in the Malfoy Manor by Bellatrix and some goons.
Back up a moment. I just want to mention that I loved the casting of Luna's father because he's the same actor that was in Notting Hill, who was Hugh Grant's roommate, who was so hilarious in that. But I remember being underwhelmed by his performance in this movie. I'm like, what a perfect casting choice, and I thought it was an underwhelming performance. Maybe we'll see more of him in 2, but just throwing that out there. I really liked.
Possibly.
I loved him in Notting Hill, so I wish he would have brought more of that energy to this.
I don't remember if he shows up in the second movie. He pretty much shoots his load in the first one.
Ouch!
Wow. But anyways, I mean he does exactly what you would kind of expect him to do. He's a father that wants to protect his only daughter and stuff like that. Little crazy. But yeah, we end up in the home of the Malfoys. Harry gets shot in the face with a stinger curse by Hermione to try and make him unrecognizable. Which great line in this. What's your name, ugly?
And then Malfoy does not identify him, so you can see the inner conflict going on with Malfoy.
Yeah, that's an interesting part too. But someone brought up a point, so these are the highly trained. I mean, Bellatrix, we're talking right hand woman of Voldemort. She should know that Harry runs around with Hermione and Ron. Not only that, she's seen them all before.
Yeah, but they're not going to go kill whoever this is because if it is Harry, then they're in deep shit. They should know
it's Harry. I mean, okay, a kid that might or may not kind of look like Harry hanging around with Hermione and Ron. How fucking dumb do you have to be to not put 2 and 2 together to get 6?
They could have a decoy. I think it's fair for them to be. I mean, it's not like they didn't capture them and imprison them. They were just trying to get a little bit more definitive on whether or not they need to notify Voldemort that we've got him, because once they say that, they're on the hook. So they were just trying to be a little bit more definitive.
This just made me think of the Keystone Cops version of the Death Eaters. You guys couldn't fucking get yourself out of a door if you had 2 keys. It just was like, God damn.
All right.
I mean, it made no sense. Everybody knows that Hermione and Ron are Harry's best friends. This guy kind of looks like Harry. We think he might be. I mean, everything
Maybe that.
points. Everything points to. I mean, everything was coming up Millhouse. Come on. It just was one of those things. It's just like, how dumb do you guys be? But I mean, it got us.
It's like Stephen Miller getting a hold of Hunter Biden's laptop and whether or not it's the real thing or not. It's like, what do I do? Do I start, do I hand it over to Trump or do I? I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I'm getting political again, but
Always bringing it back to politics.
well, Stephen Miller though, he is.
I don't know if he does, but
he's kind of a
anyway,
crazy
that's
Voldemort
fine.
like Death Eater himself. So.
But it was just it ended up. Now the other thing this brought me to, well, I mean, there's two parts of this. This is a great scene where we get Dobby coming in and able to save Harry Potter, not only for the first time, but for the second time in this story, greatly. But also we get another little wizard battle where they're throwing jinx at each other. Now, this made me start thinking when I look back at this, is like we've got 3 deadly, curses, right? You got the Avada Kedavra, Imperio, and
The Cruciatus.
So what curses are these guys throwing at each other if they're not just throwing the Avada Kedavra?
Well, they might be, but remember, there's a big part in the book.
They're not throwing that one because they can't kill it. They don't want to kill people. So
True.
what curses are they?
Oh,
like it just seemed really weird. Like they're just because they're not saying anything. They're just.
Do they go in the movie? In the movies, do they ever go into the idea of voiceless spells? Because that's a big part of the book. I don't know if that's in the movies about.
I don't know if they do, but they do
delivering a spell without saying anything, and that's
they do in the beginning of this.
Okay,
that fight in the diner. Most of those spells, except for the one Hermione actually takes out the second guy with, are voiceless.
Sure,
or I guess that's stupefy. Maybe they throw a lot of stupefies and a lot of Expelliarmus.
Well, sure. And what's the one that Harry uses in the last movie with the Half-Blood Prince, where he draws blood from
symptom?
Yes,
Simpris.
Yes, there you go. Maybe
that's what I'm wondering, because that one we learned is a Snape original, right? Mm-hmm. Like, do everybody have their own little, like, take your ears off us, shot us? Or,
it could be just like the punch spell. I'm going to throw a punch at you. I'm just trying to trip you up or do something to stop you. There's probably simple ones that just disrupt
that's why
people.
it was funny because they don't go into it in the book even. And I was like, these guys are throwing a lot of fucking spells back and forth. And also it's interesting that, like, they're not really aiming. They're just kind of throwing them at each other. And it's like, and so they're missing a lot. And
well, it depends. I mean, we're seeing a chase sequences. Which sequence are you talking about? They're chasing through the forest?
Just in general. But this is another one where they're having this back and forth. There was actually,
but they can't downplay like the whole sequence we had at the end of Order of the Phoenix when it's Voldemort and Dumbledore and they're in the Ministry and you've got all the flames and waves.
Well, there was another. I think it was the last one where Harry was going after Snape, and you see him throwing spells at him, and he's kind of deflecting them off.
Hey, so Noah. We do martial arts. We know all the defensive maneuvers and stuff. There's like how many of them? 120 with all these extensions, 146 with all these extensions and stuff like that. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're just pulling out a defensive maneuver and throwing it out.
It's just interesting that like
who knows?
It's one of those things is they don't they cover so much, but that's not one they do. And I was just curious what your guys' thought were on what spells might they be throwing. And I loved when they gave us a lot of the spells and what they did. You want
the defensive maneuvers. You want all that stuff.
I do. Yeah, I want to know all the names.
That's part of the martial arts training. You want to be able to
kick a snuttus. That's the one I would learn. Nice. Re-stomp us a groin and all the fun ones.
So, but to answer your question, I find it hard to follow the spells personally.
It's a lot.
Probably because I haven't read the books. So for me, it's like
not gonna help. It's not going to help.
But I think hearing the name, I just for my comprehension, I don't.
Yeah.
Like I'm fairly confident it will help for me because I do take a lot more away from the books than I do from.
That's the thing is in the rules of the world building that J.K. did. she started to lose a little bit. I think she lost her notes.
That's
Right, she
possible.
did talk about-
Sure, I get that.
She did talk about spell or voiceless spells, and we get some of those, but we also get some where then all of a sudden they do say them when it's very important to, like, Expelliarmus. So you know, and the wand comes flying over to him. But it's just it was one of those things when I was watching that scene with them fighting in the Malfour Manor. I was like, this is kind of just, this reminded me of a G.I. Joe fight, you know, a lot of blue and a lot of red, you know, and no one's half the battle kind of thing. You know, 50% red lasers, 50% blue lasers, kind of, it is what it is. So I was just curious what you guys thought of that. And then Dobby gets some great lines in this. You know, he gets to come in and, you know, just basically because Bellatrix is like, you know, how dare you take that wand? He's like, bitch, I'm a free elf. I got this.
Yeah,
shit.
right. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
But
and I
not quite that
love
way.
it. He drops the thing and he goes, how dare you try and kill me? He's like, not kill. You know, seriously injure, but not kill.
I'm reading an article here about how Tolkien, when he originally wrote The Hobbit, there was a whole different sequence on how the ring, something about the ring. And then in 1951, he revised The Hobbit, so it kind of retconned the whole way it played out. So maybe if there are inconsistencies built into J.K. Rowling's, she has the option of tweaking it a little bit because you're going to have inconsistencies. So I'm just defending that happens, and we can dig into those if we want and point those out, and maybe
we can dig it. I mean, we can find I can find holes in pretty much every story. I mean, that's kind of my superpower.
He'll find a hole.
But anyways, it's like things I like to think about and throw out there to other people just to see, like, what are you thinking about? Because I mean, I know the rabbit holes I go down, and I'm just curious if other people, like, you know, dig similar holes. And this was one of them. It's like, oh, okay. The spells were kind of throwing me off. This led us to what might be either the saddest or the second saddest moment of the entire Harry Potter series.
With Dobby?
Come on, man. You can't tell me you didn't just.
I'm not saying I didn't, but you're putting it up at the top, and I think that's.
What is sadder?
I don't know. Dumbledore, maybe.
I think it draws more of a tear than Dumbledore.
Cedric, to me, when Fleur screams.
Cedric didn't bother me.
Foggy, when Foggy died. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, I mixed it. Sirius Black is the other one that to me is up there with Dobby, where it's like, oh, like, just when you look at the happiness of Harry Potter, the connection to Harry Potter, the meaning to Harry Potter, those two had the most.
I thought it was moving. I thought it was effective how Dobby, even though a minor character, was able to do something, make a sacrifice that made a difference, and even showed that even small characters can make a significant difference. But it also kind of played out a little bit like a Hallmark special. You know, it was a very sappy, moving moment that, yes, I was moved to tears, but it almost felt a little manipulative. You know, I don't know.
You can kind of see it coming a little bit. Like, okay. Like,
I'm not
like
trying
not far in advance. But
I'm not trying to downplay it so much, but I'm just saying that it seemed like it pulled at all the right heartstrings to kind of give you that emotional response. And to me, those always seem a little bit. I always question whether those are really sincere or if I'm just being manipulated. And so I felt a little manipulated by the way it played out.
You're manipulated by all of them, by Cedric, by Sirius, by Dumbledore.
But to me, there are moments that hit me harder, like Fleur's scream. There was something about that moment that just dug into something, and you know what?
Fleur's scream didn't get me. It was Cedric's dad That's my boy.
Sure.
That one got me.
Yeah, but to me, this sequence didn't have a that sort of piercing moment that made this. Instead, it felt like it just played out more like a Hallmark sequence.
It did.
I'm not trying to trash Hallmark, but yeah, I'm trying to trash Hallmark.
Low-hanging
when
fruit,
they
Steve.
involve
We'll let you have it.
No, I think you're 100% right. It hallmarks it out a little bit, but that's I think what really the other ones were so tragic and fast. This one, we get the moments in the meaning. And I was going to use this as my final quote, just because it means something. But it says, Dobby says while he's dying, "What a beautiful place to be with friends."
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think, what makes this one so tight and emotional. Kind of like Seeez. Seeez was the father figure, the parentage, the one thing that he wanted so much. And this was almost on the other side, someone, a 100% true friend that didn't care about any of the other crap. Like, he didn't care that he was the chosen one or the boy who lived. He was just the guy that was nice to him, finally, who gave him a fucking sock.
I think Seeez was a good death sequence because it was over so unexpectedly. We didn't get the slow motion fall like we got with Dumbledore. We didn't get the whole moment of the dialogue that kind of leaned into Dobby's death, because that, to me, sometimes it's like that it'd be nice to have, but how often do we experience death that way? That's not how we.
Well, that's why I said
usually it's off screen. I say off screen. It's not. How often do we experience death in front of us where we get to actually have a moment?
Hopefully, never.
Well, right. So except in the movies, that's where death plays out in front of you in this grandiose sequence. And I think that's where I'm leaning into Sirius's death, because even though it was on screen, it was just like, it was over so quick and so suddenly, and we never really had a moment. It's almost like getting your breath, the wind knocked out of you. Do you
remember where I said it might be the second most tragic scene?
Okay.
Because Seeez is the most. I give you that.
I'm still thinking a more emotional impact for me was Cedric, but that was a little bit more elevated.
You're a Hufflepuff, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
You felt the school tie.
So, you're going to have to pardon me on this one. Just I'm drawing a blank. You're talking about. I think I know what it is, but I'm not 100% sure. Cedric was he the
Triwizard Championship?
Yeah, Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Okay, exactly. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
For humoring me.
No, it's fine. We got you. You're new to this compared to us. We're like the old scholars bringing you along, kicking and screaming through the story, and that's what's great is you bring a not jaded. I've loved these for so long. Cannot do it. Yeah,
there's a purity.
You bring a new eye to it.
You're a virgin Harry Potter, viewer. Yeah.
These are virgin eyes.
Yep.
But no, I agree with you. I agree with you, Steve. That Seeez was a much more dramatic and everything. But I think compared to Dumbledore, almost was like we knew that was coming.
Well, and again, I mentioned the slow motion. It's like it was overly dramatized. I was a little let down by that.
Same director. As Cedric,
as Seeez, yeah.
Yeah, they're all done by David Yates.
Order the Phoenix
I was just interested. It's one of those ones. Is like I remember when it happened. It was like everything's like, oh, we're winning. And it was like, oh shit, someone just popped our tire. like oh crap. It's one of those, and that's what it reminds me a lot of Infinity War. Not nearly on the level. Like Infinity War was this times 100. Like. You're like, oh, that was a good movie, but I'm still kind of leaving a little sad. Where Infinity War, you walked out and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I literally, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, and the most impactful scene that most people turn to is when Spider-Man, drifted off, and he just had that moment of.
I don't feel very good.
And where it's just a cry for help, as he's fading away, and you're like, oh my God, that's what we're left with. Oh,
All
brutal.
of them, like I can't remember who. Someone, it's like Captain looking for Bucky or some. Like it just, it's all just.
It's almost this confusion. It's like, what the hell's happening? I'm dying.
Yeah.
Groot.
I mean, I said the
right. Rocket, I think, is looking for.
Yeah, I'll never get over Peter Parker apologizing as he's fading away.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry. It's like it's his fault, you know.
Yeah. No, it like I said, I know exactly where it was. We saw this in the airport theater, and we were walking out, and it was dead freaking quiet.
Yeah.
And everybody's just like, what the hell?
But
I kind of have, I mean,
like, did that really happen?
Yeah, exactly.
But then think about a movie like, I don't know if you guys have seen No Country for Old Men. It's a Coen Brothers movie, and it's a very violent movie. But the main character, and I apologize if I'm ruining this for someone, but one of the main characters, Josh Brolin, he, in the middle of Act 3, he gets killed off screen, and they just kind of find his dead body, and it's just like, you feel like, oh my God, this is the character we've been following, and he was killed off screen, and that's such a blow to an audience that is so used to being there to experience these moments, and we're robbed of that moment. And there's something kind of powerful about how that can resonate, about that being robbed of the moment like that. And so again, bringing back to Dobby again, it is a very it's a powerful moment, but I think there's something a little bit manipulative about it, that it's just.
I think
like,
you're a little heartless, Steve.
God, maybe I am. Maybe I am.
You know what? I'm gonna go the other way. I think you're a little girly man, Noah.
Oh.
I think you just have.
Whoa! you know what it is?
You're a little
Steve
too
just
sensitive, Noah.
Steve just does not believe in elf rights.
That's right.
And I'm a part of Spew, apparently.
I don't think Bo's got to spew yet, so that's in the books. They don't bring that up in the movies.
No, they don't. No, that's another thing too in this movie. We didn't really cover anything when they went to the Black House, right? We got Creature, who plays a big part in them getting the locket. In the book, there's actually a touching moment between Creature and Harry Potter where Creature actually becomes a dutiful house elf to Harry, even though he still does not like Hermione and calls her a mudblood many times and talks shit about her the whole time. Even though Harry's like, "Hey, I told you to knock that shit off." He's like, "Yeah, I heard you. Whatever, stupid mudblood." But it's kind of an interesting. But we don't get that in this. There's some little things in the book on this one that are very heartfelt and stuff like that. But I do remember this being a huge part of it was the death of Dobby and stuff. And you're like, oh. But it was a great place to stop.
Yeah, that's where this ends. Yeah, right.
There's one extra scene in this where Voldemort is
he gets the Elder Wand. That's right.
Burying, yeah.
Is that what he's doing there? I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's pulling up Dumbledore.
That's the Deathly Hallows. That's the powerful wand from the tale of the three brothers. The Deathly Hallows.
So I kind of had it somehow in my head that was, because I don't have all this memorized. I had in my head that was one of the Horcruxes.
No.
That he had in some way dug up or something.
You say that, and I think at this point there's still theories on what the Horcruxes are. I think they're.
Oh, I thought they identified them.
They think they identified them. They're guessing on some of them on what the Horcruxes are.
There's like 3 more. So that they need to hit in the next.
There might be a possibility that the Elder Wand is a Horcrux. That's again been theorized by Dumbledore, and that's the motivation behind where
this
Harry's
is the
going
problem with the movies, where they can't get the deep lore that's going on in the books. They can capture the big action scenes and the majority, but there's a lot of behind the scenes disposition stuff that's going on in the book that's telling us a lot of what's going on, and that could be part of the problem. I mean, there's some other, like, a lot of stuff when they're camping where they're listening to the radio, which is a cool aspect. Brings up that, you talk about the war effort and the radio, that really brings that back. Listening, there's a we get you hear some of it. They talk about Ted Tonks, who is Nifedora, Tonks' dad. There's a scene in the books with him, and so Dean Thomas is the radio guy, and then Seamus shows up. In the book.
I was surprised in the movie how they kept reading names, and they were using first names from people that it's like George so and so or Harry so and so or something. And so every time you hear a name, you almost it's like, oh my God, is that? And then they say their last name or something. It was effective. It put me on edge a little bit. Are they going to say something? Yeah.
The names they all brought up were people that were mentioned in the books, though, too.
Yeah. In the movie, I think it has a little extra hit because you're not sure what the name is. In the book, you're reading it and you see the name in front of you. So it's all absorbed at the same time, the last name. But here, it's linear. So you hear Fred and you're waiting to hear if it's Weasley afterwards. And then it's some other last name. And you're like, you can breathe for a moment.
It reminds me, you guys didn't experience this, but Nina, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. In the winters in Pennsylvania,
waiting for your school to be announced for the snow day.
School to be announced, and they went by numbers, so it wasn't like such and such elementary. They all had a number. And what were we, 702 or 704 or something? Anyway,
We were 302.
We were 302. So they'd be going through the numbers. It'd be like 298, 299, 300, 301, 303, 304. You're like, motherfucker. So it's like, it's a very, I get that when they're going through the names, it's like, we're in the threes. Like, it's got to be us next kind of a thing.
Cindy's told me stories about that. She went through that when she was growing up. So.
I didn't get any of that snow day shit. The best thing we got was if the whole city was flooded a little bit, but everybody knew you weren't going to school that day.
It was crazy because it's like we also seems like we had a lot more snow when we were kids. Like the kids don't have
more days off, I think, because the cars weren't. I think it's anyway. That's a whole nother. Let's not even get into that. But yes, we had more snow days, but I don't think it was just the weather. But go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, it was funny because you had to listen to the radio. It was only certain radio stations, and it's like the funny thing is,
if you missed your number, you thought you heard your number, didn't think you heard your number. Like they had to go through all the numbers again.
You had to wait another 15 minutes because they were playing songs in between, and it's hilarious because like now they just text us. It's like no school today.
Oh, is that how they do it? I was wondering.
Yeah,
because then they switched to the TV. They had the ticker at the bottom.
Yeah, and then I guess there was probably a period of time where you'd have to check the website, but now they just text us. So and they do it super early. So like, so I like if it's snowing at night, I'll put my ringer on and like at 6 a.m. it'll like it's like no school today. I'll be like roll over, go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So I just got a text from one of our big fans that listens to Parsha the show, my wife, who happens to be in the same room, so she only gets my point of view. But she brought this up when we were watching the movies. So Hermione had her special little bag, and this was part of the books too. Her little purse that had the extendable broom, unending
her bag of holding.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it's a D&D bag of holding. My wife brought it up. She's like, how'd she get her purse back after the whole Bellatrix thing? Like they took all their stuff and then like she didn't have it when they escaped, but the next thing you know, she has it again. It's like, that's a good point. So
interesting.
It's the funny things is the stuff different people pick up on.
Well, I'm curious if there is an answer. I mean, maybe it is actually.
No, there's no answer. There's no answer in the movie. There's no answer in the book. It's the bag of holding.
Does she have it back in the book too? Does it say? I mean, is it that detailed in the book?
Yeah, she ends up using it later in the next movie for something.
Okay, that's right. I'm not questioning you. It was
just kind of funny, like the little things you pick up on.
I'm gonna write it down, and I'm gonna see if I can find an answer for you guys.
Steve's gonna find an answer for you.
I'm gonna see if it has been addressed. I'm not gonna do it right now. I'm just gonna write it down.
No, we'll answer it in the next podcast. So stay tuned. 3 weeks from now, join us again. The same bad channel, same bad time. As we cover Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows 7.2, where we answer the fact of How did she get her bag back?
Gotcha. I have to. Sorry, were we signing off? Did I miss that?
No, I was just
Okay, I thought you were signing off.
We're getting close.
Sorry, because I wanted to circle back. I have some fact fill-ins from earlier in the podcast. Some questions that may have been left unanswered. So, first of all, Steve, you said that you let off very early on with the oxymoron of mini climax, because I don't think they're like, it's like jumbo shrimp. Like, it's a climax, but it's just a mini climax. Anyway, next one, Mario Puzo. His name came up in the podcast before. He wrote Superman.
Oh, right.
He wrote the screenplay for Superman.
That's right. We talked a lot about
Superman
that.
2, by the way.
Bloated script, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I looked up one book that's been turned into 2 or more movies while we were there. So the way the website was, it's listed chronologically. I have to go back and double check. But like, Lord of the Rings was listed, but it's technically not broken up. It's just redistributed is kind of how they put it. So
okay, yeah.
So it doesn't really count as a pure like 1 to 2 or 1 to 2 plus. But the other one, they had Mockingjay before Harry Potter, but I think
that doesn't come out because that's 2010 to 2014.
Exactly, yep. Right.
What else?
So anyway, so before those, a couple little ones here and there. Some were like turned into one movie and then split into 2. Anyway, and I'll get to one of those. So the first one was from 1924, Die Nibelungen. No idea what it's about. It's
well, then move along to the next one.
Anyway, 1924. The next one was War and Peace. Was 4 movies in 1966 and 1967. So that would be the first American done one. And then the one that was split into, made into one movie and then 2 was The Three Musketeers. The Three Musketeers was originally one movie, and then they made it The Three Musketeers and The Four Musketeers. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, and then I got a show for you, which you're not going to watch, but there's an episode I think you would appreciate. It's on HBO Max. It's The Studio. It's that Seth Rogen one. I know you hate Seth Rogen.
I think I've heard about this. I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Well, it's also got what's her name from the Disney.
Oh, Catherine Hahn. Yes, Catherine Hahn is in it also. Yeah.
So here's the thing with Seth Rogen. As long as he's not directing, I think I do a little bit better. It's when he's just acting, he's not as bad.
Sure. Yeah. Pineapple Express. No is a big fan.
Right. So anyway, if you want to check it out, I think episode 6 will resonate with you a little bit. So if you have time, you just want to check it out. You'll miss some of there's some stuff that calls back to other things, but I don't think it'll take away from the big picture of what they're trying to convey.
All right, I'll have to look at it.
And there's only one season too, so
yeah.
All right.
No, yeah, I know I shit on him a lot, but a lot of it has to do when he's directing or writing and stuff like that. Sure. But when he's just there was the Steven Spielberg movie that he was in where he was actually playing a character that was written and directed by someone else, and he was reasonably good.
Yeah, I don't think either of us really cared for that movie, but he was a moment that
it was the Spielberg,
the Steven Spielberg biopic
movie. Yeah.
Kind of the biopic one, or biopic, depending on I don't know. It is biopic, or is it biopic?
What was it? It was like a last name something.
Yeah, I remember. I can't think of it either, but
we covered it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you can't say Bo will text us and correct us. So.
Oh yes,
I find hilarious.
Speaking of which,
I do text you.
Did you ever?
I do text you and correct you when you.
Did you listen to our last podcast where we covered the Daredevil? Born Again?
Yes, I did.
What did you have any? Did what we say resonate? I mean, we were all kind of on the same page that it was not.
I agree. You guys were all on the same page, and I think I would have offered a slightly dissenting opinion only because I am such a big fan.
Okay.
Right. So I was just happy to see that's kind of a cool, like the way you guys talked about it being broken into like 3 or 4 stories or whatever it was, over the course of the whole thing. You guys took that as a negative and I took it as a positive because for me, it's like, it's kind of like
comics.
So I kind of like what?
It's kind of like the comics where you get 2 comics
so
in
like
a row with a story.
So imagine you're getting a hardback. It's usually like 4 stories in one.
Okay.
So this is like one hardback of comics where it's kind of like 4 stories and they kind of cross over into one larger volume kind of thing.
See,
So,
Bo, we needed you.
I liked it.
We needed you on that podcast. You would have given us something a little bit more to grapple with. You know.
I put in.
In my defense, I think I liked it a little more than you two guys.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah. But I put 70 hours of work in, and that doesn't even take into effect. So just last week I put 70, which for me is a lot. I don't know. No one's probably gonna say that's nothing.
Wow.
But I mean, and then the compounded rates, and then the compounded. I knew it. And then the compounded toilet issues earlier in the week. And
Right. Like which we kept alluding to with clever puns. But I don't think we actually ever said it.
The puns were well done. I know exactly. It was like, ha ha ha. I get it. Anyway, but so I would have liked to have been on it. I even had drinks, but they were very simple.
We're glad you're here tonight, though. That's
thanks. Yeah, me too. So it was called Foggy's End or something like that. I think was the beer or something like that. Or Fog's End maybe or whatever. So that was the beer, and I was just going to have. I have the very end of this bottle of
like a
Blandings.
20-year-old. Yeah.
No, it's like one of those ones that's just they give it on what do you call it? It's only released on allotment, a couple times a year. So I've been lucky enough to get a few, and there's like just enough to have a couple of shots in it. And I was like, well, I could do that because it'll be near the end of the bottle and represent one, the drink that Foggy was going to have, and then the shots that they all took to finish the bottle off later in the series.
Oh, nice.
So, anyway, so that was going to be my whiskey thing there. So anyway, but yeah, I would like to have been on it, but I'm excited for Thunderbolts. I don't think I'm spoiling anything. Has anybody seen anything online about what the asterisk on Thunderbolts means? Has anybody?
Yes, I know exactly what it is, but I won't spoil it for you.
I won't spoil it.
They're starting to spoil it themselves. Actually, if you don't watch any.
Okay, well, if Steve doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'll just leave it.
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I'll catch it here soon.
It's a great joke throughout the movie too.
I have a theory, but I'm not even going to theorize it because you guys know.
I don't know. Yeah, I get you. I didn't want to ruin anything.
Go in not knowing as much as you can. It's really good.
Yeah, I haven't been following.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I know is the characters and that one little joke. Other than that, I don't know.
The funny thing is we went in, and so the first thing me and my wife did was we made a prediction on how many trailers we were going to get. Ooh. And I had picked 5 or 6. I was like, it's going to be 5 or 6. The 6th one was actually a trailer for the Thunderbolts before the Thunderbolts. What the hell? Who puts your own trailer? And it was a serious trailer. I was like,
who would do that? That'd be cool to see on like Deadpool, when it's like they're breaking some sort of 5th or 6th wall or something. But
or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Well, they do that. At the beginning of Tropic Thunder. No, it's not. Is it Tropic Thunder? Yeah. Right, where they have all the trailers for the movies that Ben Stiller does, right?
Exactly. All the trailers for all the different actors. So there's like a trailer for Robert Downey Jr., Ben Stiller, Jack Black.
Hilarious.
Who was the other guy?
Right.
And didn't they also do that at the end of 21 Jump Street, too? I think they did a bunch of sequel trailers at the end of 21 Jump Street.
The best trailer for a Deadpool would be sitting in the theater, like next to Deadpool, and him talking through the trailer of Deadpool.
Yeah, right.
That would be awesome. But anyways, go see that. We are going to cover next week. We're going to do our throwback right away for May. We're going back to 1995, and we're going to hit a classic, epic movie, Braveheart.
Right? Yeah, right up Noah's wheelhouse. Great movie.
I still love my wheelhouse.
I haven't seen it for 30 years, so it'll be a reunion for me.
This was a movie I was watching yearly for probably 15 years after it came out.
Okay, you'll have more to say, but I'm excited to see it again.
I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm really excited to watch it again and see if it still holds up to where I was before with it. But there's some. I mean, one of my favorite characters in movies all time is in this movie, and I already know my drink.
I got to do a shout out to Rob Roy, which came out around the same time.
Yes,
which I also think is. I mean, that was more Irish, I think, right? Or
Scottish.
Was it Scottish? Okay,
Rob Roy's Scottish.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
he's a Scot.
But that's Liam Neeson and
Yeah.
what's the bad guy? Tim Roth plays the baddie.
Yeah.
Really good one.
Another great movie.
And then who's the wife? Who's his wife? Rob Roy's wife.
Oh, it's Frances. What was she in? She's in the horror series.
Oh, the rabbit. Is she in the rabbit? No, not that.
Jessica Lange?
Jessica Lange, right? Isn't it Jessica Lange?
Yes, you are correct. It is Jessica Lange.
That's what I
And Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz is in it too.
Oh, really? Okay. But we're not covering
in
Rob
Rob
Roy.
Roy.
We're covering Braveheart.
I know.
And then
Not
we'll
yet,
follow that
anyway.
with the Thunderbolts the following week.
Yep.
Yep.
And then we'll be back for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Point Due.
Yep.
Yeah.
Harry Potter 8.
Harry Potter 8.
Right. Don't forget
Hey,
to download, rate,
and-
and review so I can get that out there. If
Okay.
you're on this long, you've definitely downloaded and hopefully rated it. Rated it.
Also Google A Night at the Garden. It's I believe it's on its own website. You can watch it for free. It's
Okay.
like 15
I was gonna
minutes.
say,
right.
IMDb didn't show it playing anywhere, but I'll have to check on a regular website because
Shorts you can
I
usually
like-
find
I
on
think
like
it's-
YouTube or something
I
like
think
that.
it's like
Seven
a
minutes.
night at the garden.com or something like
Okay.
that.
Oh.
Don't quote me on that, but if you Google it, you can find it.
looks like
and
it's
like
super
I said,
short,
it's
so
like-
easy to watch.
It's like 10 minutes long. It's all original footage from the 30s, and it is eye opening.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I guess if that's what I got, I'm like say, I don't think you guys are a waste of space.
Oh, thank you, Noah.
Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesars.
Love you guys.
What does that mean?